Chapter 2668. Jin Xiang was so angry that his face turned green when he saw Night Sorrow use a large-scale divine soul attack and injure everyone below the level of invincible Sir God. After fighting for less than 20 breaths, his side, which should have had the upper hand, was left with only 3 invincible Sir Gods who still had the power to fight. The others were either dead or had their divine souls damaged. They did not have the ability to continue fighting. This high god is not easy to deal with. Let's pretend to escape from here and lure him to this small world to fight in the real ancient Golden Crow world. Jin Xiang felt that the situation was not good, so he sent a message to the other 2 invincible Sir Gods. At the same time, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Bastard, since you want to die, don't blame me for being ruthless. You will definitely die today. You have said this several times. You don't have to repeat it. Otherwise, I will think that there is something wrong with your brain." Yishang didn't quite understand what was wrong with Jin Xiang's incessant chatter whenever he stopped attacking. "There is something wrong with your brain. Come out and fight again if you dare." Jin Xiang scolded again and left the small world with Jin Gui and Jin Lai. Their purpose was to call for help. Night Sorrow, this is the ancient Golden Crow world. The Golden Crow clan must have a rich heritage. If the 3 of them manage to escape, more powerful gold crows will soon appear. Long Xiangyu immediately reminded him when he saw the 3 golden crows leave in the clear sky pagoda. "I know that they're going to find help and deliberately lure me out. Obviously, the Divine King is in the outside world. I am thinking about how to face the Divine King." Night Sorrow analyzed carefully. No matter what, he was only a high god. He was still a few levels away from the Divine King. Even if we hide here, we will definitely have to face the Divine King. Why don't we rush out now before they are ready? We might have a chance to leave the ancient Golden Crow world directly, Long Xiangyu said. Now, he was tied to Night Sorrow. Naturally, he did not want Night Sorrow to leave the ancient Golden Crow world successfully. However, given the current situation, Jin Xiang and the others would definitely call for help, and at least one of them would be at the level of the Divine King. "You're right," Night Sorrow nodded and said. "If I had caught that Golden Crow just now, it would have been the first bargaining chip to leave the ancient Golden Crow world. After all, we don't know how to leave." In the battle just now, Night Sorrow had analyzed that if he wanted to leave the ancient Golden Crow realm, he might have to rely on the power of the Golden Crow race. He felt that if he could capture Jin Xiang and use him to threaten the Golden Crow race, it would be a better choice. It seemed that Jin Xiang's position in the Golden Crow clan was not low. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted like a tyrant. Yes, if they could capture him, the Golden Crow clan would definitely be afraid of attacking the rat for fear of breaking the vases. Otherwise, the Golden Crow race will definitely not let you leave since you possess a sovereign-grade divine artifact. Although Long Xiangyu had not interacted much with the Golden Crow race, he was well aware of the allure of a Dominator-grade god weapon. Yes, it was the right thing to do. "Let's go out." Yishang answered and left the small world with the Samsara halberd in his hand. When they returned to the ancient Golden Crow realm, the 3 suns in the sky immediately appeared. At this moment, Jin Xiang, Jin Gui, and Golden Break were rapidly fleeing in one direction. "Where are you going? All of you stay here." Night Sorrow, who used the Void Extreme Shadow Body to chase after them, quickly shortened the distance between them. This Night Sorrow is only an exalted god. How can he be so fast? During the battle, just now, Night Sorrow had already displayed his superior strength. Jin Xiang had only attacked a few times before he was certain that he was not Night Sorrow's match. Now that he realized that Night Sorrow's speed was also beyond his reach, he was instantly displeased. "Where did this freak come from? Young master, what should we do?" Jin Gui asked worriedly as he saw Night Sorrow getting closer and closer. He had already exchanged blows with Night Sorrow and was certain that he was no match for him. "What else can we do?" "Of course, we have to summon our foundation." Jin Xiang's original intention was to rush back to the tribe to find help. However, from the looks of it, Night Sorrow was too fast. There was no chance for them to rush back to the Golden Crow race. This was something that Jin Xiang had never expected before he rushed over. In the battle, just now, he did not use his full strength. However, Jin Xiang felt that even if he used all his ultimate techniques, he would definitely not be Knight Soro's match. As Exalted God, Knight Soro's strength was actually closer to the Divine King's than an unrivaled Sir God like him. Just as Knight Soro caught up to the three of them, Jin Xiang suddenly looked into the sky and shouted for help. What's going on? After hearing Jin Xiang's voice for a long time, one of the suns slowly woke up from its slumber. It turned out that it was not a sun at all. It was one of the foundation of the Golden Crow race, a golden crow at the level of the Divine King. Divine Ancestor, a cultivator from the divine world, barged into the territory of the Golden Crow race and successfully obtained the Dominator-level divine artifact. Jin Xiang shouted and continued, I originally wanted to defeat him and leave the divine artifact behind, but I am not his match. Right now, I'm being pursued. Oh, the Divine King, level Golden Crow in the sky, Kim Song, looked down. He saw that only one exalted god, Knight Soro, was chasing after Jin Xiang and the others. He immediately said unhappily, Jin Xiang, the one who obtained the Dominator-level divine artifact and defeated you, is this exalted god in front of us? You woke me up because of this exalted god. Divine Ancestor. He looks like exalted god, but his true strength is on par with the Divine King. We are no match for him. Jin Xiang immediately explained. Oh, an exalted god is as strong as the Divine King? Even I have never heard of such a thing. If it's true, I will forgive you this once. Kim Song, who was hovering in the sky and emitting a dazzling yellow light, looked down at Knight Soro and asked, I heard that this exalted god is as strong as the Divine King. I don't know if it's true or not, but answer me honestly. Otherwise, there's only one outcome waiting for you, and that is complete annihilation. Are all of you Golden Crows so rude when you speak? In the sky, Jin Xiang's tone was extremely arrogant. He didn't care about Yi Xiang at all, as he coldly replied, Why do I need to be polite when talking to an exalted god like you? If you don't listen, I will slap you to death. Kim Song continued arrogantly. In his opinion, even if Knight Soro was as strong as the Divine King, he was no match for him. After all, he was already a mid-level Divine King. If that's what you think, then don't blame me for being rude. Kim Song's words were extremely arrogant. Knight Soro heard him and immediately took out his Dominator-level bow and bow, pulled the bowstring, and shot at him. Although there was no arrow this time, the power was definitely not weak. It felt like a long rainbow. What? You dare attack the Divine Ancestor? Chapter 2669. Ordinary exalted gods would be lucky if they didn't kneel before the Divine King. Knight Soro had actually shot an arrow at the Golden Crow sacred tribe without hesitation. This was something that Jin Xiang had never expected. It had a huge impact on his heart. Regardless of the outcome, he was still shocked by Knight Soro's boldness. How dare an ant like you attack me? Kim Song, who was floating in the air, was also surprised. He first laughed disdainfully before his expression turned grave. Although Knight Soro couldn't fully draw the Sovereign Bone Bow, the power he could draw was enough to threaten Kim Song. The Sovereign Bone Bow didn't shoot an ordinary attack. It contained a trace of the Sovereign's laws. How is this possible? Kim Song had never expected Knight Soro to be able to draw an attack that contained the Sovereign attribute. His expression instantly turned gloomy. At the same time, he had no choice but to use a secret technique to dodge. Otherwise, he would very likely be killed by this move. Boom! The attack, which didn't have an arrow, exploded in the air with a boundless might. Kim Song's speed was extremely fast, and he managed to dodge this attack. However, a huge crack appeared in the void. A gap had actually appeared in the ancient Golden Crow world because of this attack. So what if I attack you? Knight Soro, who didn't cower in the face of Kim Song, roared loudly. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He discovered that this attack had directly blasted a huge gap in the void. Knight Soro was delighted when he used the Sea Serpent's eye to observe this gap. He discovered that this gap seemed to allow him to directly leave the ancient Golden Crow world. He had originally been conflicted about how to leave this place. Now that the exit was right in front of him, how could he not be happy? Haha, Brother Night Sorrow is really a god. Not only can you draw the sovereign bow, but you are also very lucky. Jiao Kong, who was in the clear sky pagoda, immediately became excited when he saw Night Sorrow use the sovereign bone bow in his hand to blast a crack in the void. This bone bow is really amazing. Night Sorrow exclaimed as he looked at the bow in his hand. Normally speaking, a Dominator-grade artifact would have a strong repulsive force against the High God. It would be very difficult to even get close to it, let alone control it. Bastard! The ancient Golden Crow world had actually been blasted open. In the future, it's very likely that not only the exalted gods can enter. Kim Song roared in anger when he saw the gap in the void. In the past, only the exalted gods could enter the ancient Golden Crow world. The Golden Crows were the absolute rulers of this world. Now that Night Sorrow had opened up a gap, they were faced with countless dangers. If one or two Divine King appeared every few days and came here to look for opportunities, the Golden Crows would never have peace. What? Divine Ancestor, are you saying that the ancient Golden Crow realm is connected to the God realm? Jin Xiang's face darkened when he heard Kim Song's words. If there were no accidents, the days of the Golden Crows as the local tyrant would most likely end today. Damn it, it was like this. However, I will think of a way to repair it. Kim Song, who was observing the big hole in the void, was in no mood to pay attention to Night Sorrow, even though he was extremely angry. This was because the matter in front of him would affect the survival of the Golden Crows. He had no choice but to take it to heart. Brother Yi, why don't you just blast open a gap here? Why don't you just charge out? Now that you have the Dominator Grade Bone Bow, you can blast open countless gaps if you want to. The Golden Crow Divine Ancestor will definitely not dare to attack you. Long Xiangyu, who had already entered the spatial artifact, saw the reaction of the Golden Crows and immediately transmitted his judgment through voice transmission. Calm down first. What you said is only one of the possibilities. The other possibility is that he is completely enraged and will attack me. Night Sorrow, who was carefully sensing the bone bow, did not immediately take action. Instead, he swallowed a few pills to recover his Yuan Qi. Although he hadn't fully drawn the bone bow, or even drawn it halfway, he had nearly used up all the Yuan Qi in his body. It was obvious how terrifying this bone bow was. Night Sorrow, aren't you curious as to how you were able to obtain this Dominator-grade divine artifact with the cultivation of a high god? At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in Night Sorrow's mind. When he heard this voice, he was stunned at first. Then he asked suspiciously, "Are you the artifact spirit of this bone bow?" "I am the artifact spirit of this bone bow. When you attacked just now, without my help, you wouldn't have been able to display such might," the artifact spirit said. The bone bow spirit continued, "In fact, there's a karma between you and me." "Karma between us? What's going on?" Night Sorrow asked in confusion. "I am the sect master of the Tianyan school, and you are a disciple of the Tianyan school. Of course, there is karma between us," the artifact spirit of the bone bow said slowly. Night Sorrow was stunned at first, then felt his heart ache. He asked, "Sect master, could it be that you failed to break through to the sovereign realm and thus became the artifact spirit of a Dominator-grade divine artifact?" "Huh, that's not it. I have successfully broken through to the sovereign realm. But now, that person is already close to the Eternal Supreme Realm. If it weren't for the Eternal Supreme Realm's predecessors pointing out your existence, you wouldn't have been able to escape. How could I leave the God Realm with peace of mind?" Xiao Tianxian, the sect master of the Tianyan school, explained. As it turned out, after the 7 sovereigns, he had quietly become a sovereign. However, before he could appear in front of others, he had been summoned to the Eternal Sovereign Realm to fight. "Sect Master, you actually went to the Eternal Sovereign Realm? What kind of world is it?" Night Sorrow asked curiously. He was bound to follow in the footsteps of his predecessors and go to that world. Cruel, extremely cruel. Even a sovereign would be easily obliterated there. Xiao Tianxian, the sect master of the Tianyin school, said and asked with concern, "How is the current situation in my Tianyin school?" His artifact spirit body only contained a trace of soul will. After being reminded by the Horn Clan Supreme, he had been staying in the ancient Golden Crow world to wait for Night Sorrow's arrival. He was completely unaware of some things in the God Realm. Currently, the Tianyin school is managed by Vice Sect Master Yuan Tianji. The other Vice Sect Master, Ho Jun, is controlled by the extraterrestrial demons. Now, he and the forces behind him have been completely eliminated by us. Although the strength of the Tianyin school has been greatly reduced, there are no remnants of the extraterrestrial demons. Night Sorrow told him some things about the Tianyin school. Then he said, however, many extraterrestrial demons are stirring in the Cloud Fairy continent. Soaring Heaven sect has completely fallen, and the other sects are fighting to the death. This battle will last for a long time. The person who will end it will be you, Night Sorrow. Chapter 2670. Nine Heavens Shrine? Where is that? Night Sorrow asked curiously. As far as he could remember, there was no such place in the heavenly realm. Nine Heavens Shrine is where I became a sovereign. It was originally the residence of the sovereign of Nine Heavens, but countless years ago, the sovereign of Nine Heavens perished, leaving behind a large amount of sovereign laws. Now, I have obtained all of the sovereign laws there, but there are still some other opportunities. Tianyin School's sect master Xiao Tianxian explained, then continued. When I became a sovereign, I immediately followed Paragon Ancestor Phoenix to the Eternal Supreme World. I didn't have time to return to Tianyin School, so I hid all the important items in Nine Heavens Shrine. As for this sovereign grade artifact, it was personally forged after I arrived at the Eternal Supreme World and was brought back by Paragon Ancestor Phoenix. Lord Sect Master, since the Eternal Supreme World is incomparably dangerous, why didn't you keep this sovereign grade artifact by your side? Night Sorrow asked. Although this sovereign grade artifact, Bao, is extremely rare in the heavenly realm, it's nothing in the Eternal Supreme World. As long as you work hard, it's easy to obtain. It's just that bringing it back to the heavenly realm is a little more difficult. Tianyin School's sect master Xiao Tianxian explained, then continued. My sudden departure will definitely be a huge blow to Tianyin School. This sovereign grade artifact will be called the Tianyin Bao from now on. It will protect Tianyin School forever. And you will be the next Tianyin School's sect master. Lord Sect Master, as of now, Vice Sect Master Yuan Tianji is doing a very good job as acting Sect Master. Tianyin School doesn't need Night Sorrow to be Sect Master at all. Night Sorrow explained humbly. He really wasn't interested in the position of Sect Master. It wasn't that he wanted to avoid responsibility, but that his thoughts were mainly on his family. Since you have no intention of becoming the head of the school, there's no need to mention this matter. However, I hope that no matter what happens in the future, you won't just stand by and watch the Tianyin School disband. Xiao Tianxuan's voice contained a trace of bitterness. Clearly, there was something that he hadn't said. Lord Sect Master, did the Horn Race's paragon divine something? Night Sorrow wasn't stupid. He immediately deduced something from the tone of Xiao Tianxian, the head of Tianyin School. If the Tianyin School wasn't in danger, Xiao Tianxian wouldn't have had to go all the way from the Eternal Supreme Realm to bring back a sovereign gray divine bow for them. It's just a bad possibility. Xiao Tianxian, the head of the Tianyin School, sighed and continued. I believe that with your luck, you can definitely suppress everything for the Tianyin School. In addition, if there are any problems that you can't resolve, you can seek help from the Sovereign Manor. He won't stand by and do nothing when it comes to the Tianyin School. Yes, I understand, Lord Sect Master. However, this time, I killed a high god from the Sovereign Manor. His name was Zhen Yidian. He should be a clansman of the Sovereign Manor. Night Sorrow said helplessly. No matter. The Sovereign Manor is a man of great courage. He stands on a different level from his clansmen. He won't care about such trifles. Xiao Tianxian explained. Night Sorrow, cultivate the clone art that Paragon Ancestor Phoenix left for you. I didn't succeed, so I can't leave my name in the God world. If you succeed, You can fight in both the God world and the eternal supreme realm. Paragon Ancestor Phoenix's clone art. Night Sorrow thought for a moment. Indeed, Paragon Ancestor Phoenix had left behind an ancient record. So that was why he had warned him to cultivate it as soon as he became the Divine King. Yes, it's a lost scripture in the God realm, and it's extremely difficult to cultivate it. So far, none of the people fighting in the eternal supreme realm have succeeded in cultivating it. But if they do, it's simply heaven-defying. Xiao Tianxian, the head of the Tianyin school, spoke with a hint of bitterness in his voice. If he had been able to cultivate a clone back then, he wouldn't have left the God world after becoming sovereign. He wouldn't have left behind anything for the Tianyin school. Lord Sect Master, Night Sorrow will cultivate seriously. Night Sorrow nodded in agreement. Paragon Ancestor Phoenix had said that the Divine King could cultivate that ancient record in the future. He was preparing to break through to the divine sovereign realm. If you succeed, you'll be able to make up for many regrets. Due to space restrictions, I can no longer return to the God world. I hope that you'll be able to walk a brighter path. Xiao Tianxian said, and no longer bothered about this matter. Instead, he said, Night Sorrow, although the Tianyin bow is powerful, it lacks an arrow. One day, you can find a way to make up for it. Also, with your current strength, try not to use it after I completely disappear. Because every time you use it, it will hurt your foundation. When you become a divine sovereign, the backlash will be much smaller. Yes, Lord Sectmaster, Night Sorrow understands. Unless it's a life or death crisis, I will try not to use the Tianyin bow. Night Sorrow knew that with his strength as a high god, if he forced himself to use the Tianyin bow, he would indeed suffer an unimaginable backlash. At this moment, the Tianyin school's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, suddenly laughed and said, The other old golden crows of the ancient golden crow world are about to be awakened. They're all Divine King. You blasted a hole in the sky of the ancient golden crow world and have a sovereign-level divine artifact. They definitely want to kill you. Next, I'll help you fight them. So the three sons of the ancient golden crow world are all divine, king-level experts. It seems that the golden crow race is not simple. Hearing the words of the Tianyin school's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, Night Sorrow's body surged with boundless battle intent. At the same time, the other two suns in the sky of the ancient golden crow world woke up from their slumber. Who blasted a hole in the sky of the ancient golden crow world? One of the golden crows woke up and discovered that a large hole had been blasted in the sky of the ancient golden crow world. He immediately roared angrily. He was the son of the golden crow patriarch, and his name was Kim Hong. He was currently the oldest and strongest person in the ancient golden crow world. His cultivation level was the upper divine king, and he was not far from the half-step sovereign level. Reporting to Ancestor Hong, it's that high deity ant below called Night Sorrow. While Kim Song was pondering how to fix the hole in the ancient golden crow world, he chose to awaken the other two because he could not think of a way to completely smooth out the hole. What? A high deity ant can blast the ancient golden crow world into such a state? Hearing Kim Song's words, Kim Hong immediately wanted to scold him. However, when he saw the Tianyin bow in Night Sorrow's hand, he immediately raised his eyebrows and said, A high deity ant actually has a sovereign-level divine artifact. How is that possible? Reporting to Ancestor Hong, he used the sovereign-level divine artifact in his hand to blast a large hole in the ancient golden crow world. Kim Song spoke truthfully and asked, What should we do now? What should we do? Of course, we should kill him and take the sovereign-level divine artifact. Then, we can think about how to fix the situation. Chapter 2671. Even sovereigns might not possess a sovereign-grade divine weapon. It was impossible for Kim Hong to not be tempted by Tianyin Bao. You want to kill me? It won't be that easy. Night Sorrow looked up and saw the greed in Kim Hong's eyes. Seeing that three god kings of the Golden Crow clan had suddenly awakened, Murong Tsai, who was in the Clear Sky Pagoda, worriedly asked, Yishang, what should we do? In her opinion, No matter how talented Night Sorrow was, he was only a high god. He had no chance of winning against 3 divine kings. Brother Yi, from the looks of it, the experts of the Golden Crow tribe are completely green with envy. Even if you threaten them, it shouldn't be of any use. Long Xiangyu, who was originally advising Night Sorrow, also had a grave expression. After all, he was only a high god and had a natural fear of the divine king. As for Jiao Kong, Jiao Hui, Cao Linger, and the others, they all had worried expressions. They wanted to say something, but they were afraid that Night Sorrow would be distracted, so they could only pray silently. Night Sorrow, who was aware of everyone's worries in the Clear Sky Pagoda, was very confident because he had the help of the Tianyin School's sect master, Shao Tianxian. He said, "Everyone, don't worry. The 3 divine kings of the Golden Crow, ancient world, can't trap us." After saying that, Night Sorrow didn't wait for the 3 divine kings to make a move. He raised his hand and shot 3 arrows. With Shao Tianxuan's help, although the 3 arrows consumed a lot of his energy, he didn't suffer any backlash. He directly used elixirs to replenish his energy. Great Ancestor, Nirvana Ancestor, this little bastard shattered the void of the Golden Crow ancient world. Kim Song shouted worriedly when he saw Night Sorrow shoot 3 arrows at once. If Night Sorrow was allowed to continue shooting, the Golden Crow ancient world would definitely be riddled with holes. Damn it, this is a little tricky. Each of the 3 divine kings of the Golden Crow clan had to face an arrow energy. If they dodged, the void of the ancient Golden Crow world would definitely be blasted open again. If this continued, the consequences would be unimaginable. First, use your means to block these 3 arrows. Then find an opportunity to kill him immediately. He's just a high god. I don't believe he can withstand our attacks. Kim Hong, who had transformed into his human form, had an extremely unsightly expression. With a loud roar, he took out a cauldron-shaped divine artifact and took the blow head-on. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Kim Hong had chosen to resist, Shao Tianxian, who was in Tianyin Bao, sneered. As expected, as soon as his voice fell, the copper furnace in Kim Hong's hand was directly shattered. Moreover, the invisible arrow did not stop because of this. Instead, it blasted another huge hole in the ancient Golden Crow world. Even Kim Hong was unable to block Tianyin Bao's arrow energy, let alone the other 2. Kim Song and Jin Ye's divine artifacts were also shattered. At the same time, another 2 huge holes were blasted in the ancient Golden Crow world. This won't do. If this continues, the ancient Golden Crow world will completely appear. Father once said that once the ancient Golden Crow world appears, we will not be far from extinction. Kim Hong roared angrily and continued. From the looks of it, the appearance of the ancient Golden Crow world is already an irreversible matter. The plan now is for the 2 of you to cooperate with me to kill this little bastard. As long as we obtain the Dominator Divine artifact, the Golden Crow clan will become infinitely powerful. Kim Hong did not avoid Night Sorrow's words at all. Ridiculous. You want to scheme against Tianyin Bao. Shao Tianxian, who had not appeared all this time, was actually in charge of everything. In the eyes of a dominator like him, Kim Hong and the other divine kings were nothing. Just as Kim Hong spoke, he transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. If the situation becomes dangerous, drip a drop of blood on Tianyin Bao. This way, I can temporarily use some of my dominator abilities to kill these little birds. Okay, I will cooperate with Sect Master, Yishang replied. Although the current him was unable to defeat a lesser god king in a head-on battle, he was absolutely capable of protecting himself. But these 3 divine kings of the Golden Crow clan were all middle-level divine kings and above. To him, their strength was a little too powerful and not too easy to contend with. In the end, it still depended on the ability of the Tianyin School's sect master, Shao Tianxian. Others did not know about this. It seemed that Night Sorrow was the one who was showing off his power. How is this possible? How is this possible? Seeing Night Sorrow's bravery, Jin Xiang, who was watching from afar, was scared out of his wits. When Yi Shang had attacked Jin Sheng just now, he had thought that Yi Shang had overestimated himself. He had not expected things to develop to this point. The entire ancient Golden Crow realm was about to be destroyed, but Yi Shang was still unharmed. For an upper god to be able to go up against 3 God King level beings and still be able to do so, this was practically an eye-opener for Jin Xiang. Everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda was excited when they saw Night Sorrow continuously shoot out destructive arrow energies. The most excited was the Horn Clan's patriarch, Jiao Kong. He said emotionally, "Brother Night Sorrow is really a genius. If there are no accidents, he will become the #1 person in the divine world one day. He might also become the #1 person in the eternal supreme world." Jiao Hui transmitted his voice to Jiao Kong. He knew that Night Sorrow would leave the divine world one day. Yes, there was a problem with what I said. Haha, no matter what, Brother Night Sorrow's invincible aura is really amazing. Jiao Kong laughed loudly. At the same time, he was amazed by the Horn Clan's supremacy's powerful divination ability. 3 little birds, you want to fight? Night Sorrow, quickly feed me your blood. Just as Jiao Kong was sighing, the Tianyin School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, suddenly transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. He discovered that the 3 divine kings of the Golden Crow clan were all preparing their ultimate techniques. These ultimate techniques were nothing to a ruler, but a high god like Night Sorrow was completely powerless against them. The only thing he could do was to take the lead and launch an even sharper attack to nip the danger in the bud. Okay, Sect Master. Hearing the words of Xiao Tianxian, the clan master of the Tianyin clan, Yi Shang did not hesitate. He immediately cut open his wrist and continuously poured blood into the Tianyin bow. Not long after, the Heaven Cloud bow, which was originally a bone bow, not only grew flesh and blood on it, it was also covered by fine dragon scales. Clearly, some of the Tianyin bow's materials came from dragons. Skycloud's Sunshot Art. The Heavenly Cloud bow grew flesh and dragon scales. Yi Shang immediately tossed it into the air and shouted. This was the ultimate technique he and Tianyin Bao had learned through blood and sweat. Night Sorrow then stood in the air and made the posture of drawing the bow. The Tianyin Bao in the sky gradually bent along with Night Sorrow's movements. As the Tianyin Bao was completely drawn, it exploded with a sound that sounded like the void was about to explode. This is an attack that contains the power of a ruler. Be careful. You two must be careful. Kim Hong, who had been preparing his ultimate technique to kill Night Sorrow, immediately warned Kim Song and Jin Ye when he saw Tianyin Bao erupt with such a powerful attack. Hongzu, even if I, Kim Song, have to kill this high god. Chapter 2672. There weren't many divine kings in the entire divine realm. The Golden Crow clan had 3 divine kings. Even if they were to reappear, they would be one of the top forces in the divine realm. The Golden Crow clan was furious that a high god had stirred up the situation. As a godly king, Jin Sheng did not care about godly monarchs and high gods. Today, he had been humiliated by a high god like Yi Shang. His mentality was completely out of balance. He felt that even if he had to switch places, he would kill Yi Shang in the ancient Golden Crow world. Kim Song, who was like a scorching sun, attacked fiercely. He had activated some secret technique and even dodged the Sky Cloud Sun Shooting Arts attack. This is the Divine King's desperate attack. Night Sorrow felt that he had been completely locked in by this attack. There was no chance for him to escape. How does the threat of death feel? If I don't do anything, you will be killed by this attack. At this moment, the voice of Xiao Tianxian, overlord of the Tianyin school, came from Tianyin Bao. He spoke neither fast nor slow, as if he was interrogating someone. Even if Overlord doesn't do anything, Night Sorrow might not die. Night Sorrow didn't give up completely in the face of Kim Song's fatal attack. He activated the Eye of the Sea Serpent and used the Trestrimsa battle mystic technique again. Then, he took out the Samsara halberd and shot it at Kim Song like an arrow. The samsara halberd that was shot out carried with it a destructive aura. The domineering samsara energy tore through the void. Even Kim Song, who had activated his secret technique, couldn't dodge it. Boom! Kim Song's body trembled when he was hit by the samsara halberd. Then, he fell heavily to the ground. The tip of the samsara halberd had been strengthened by the Dominator's stone and carried a trace of the Dominator's power. Kim Song was powerful, but he was just a divine king. His body couldn't be stronger than the samsara halberd. Moreover, the Tianyin Bao's energy had caused serious damage to him. You can do this? When Long Xiangyu, who was in the clear sky pagoda, saw Knight Sorrow shoot out the cycle heavenly halberd like an arrow, he immediately sighed with astonishment. If it were him, he would not have thought of this at all. Murong Kai-e, who was originally very worried about Knight Sorrow, gradually calmed down. She found that no matter how desperate the situation was, Knight Sorrow would always find a way to deal with it. It seemed like there was nothing in this world that could stump him. Jiao Kong, Jiao Hui, and the other members of the Horn race were equally happy. Knight Sorrow was only a high god, yet he was able to injure the divine king. This kind of invincibility shocked them. He really blocked it. Knight Sorrow, it seems that this sect master has underestimated you. Xiao Tianxian, the head of Tianyin Bao's Tianyin school, spoke again. This time he was truly moved. If he were Knight Sorrow, he would not be able to think of any way to deal with the attack just now. However, Knight Sorrow not only resolved a life and death crisis, but also injured Kim Song to a certain extent. Knight Sorrow also came up with a sudden idea. Sect Master, please don't laugh at me. Knight Sorrow said modestly. Then, he called back the cycle heavenly halberd and prepared for the next attack. Knight Sorrow, you are too modest. Only when the sea is turbulent can the true colors of a hero be revealed. Your performance at the critical moment comforted this sect master. I look forward to you rushing to the eternal supreme world as soon as possible. Xiao Tianxian, the head of Tianyin school, said. He had high expectations for Knight Sorrow. Lord Sect Master, you flatter me. Knight Sorrow was also lucky. The cycle heavenly halberd just happened to be strengthened by the sovereign stone and has reached a certain level of strength. It also has the power of reincarnation and is extremely powerful in terms of attributes. Otherwise, it would not have been able to block Kim Song's attack. After replying, Knight Sorrow raised his head and looked at the enemies in the distance. At this moment, Kim Hong and Jin Ye of the Golden Crow race had used up all their strength and finally blocked the Sky Cloud Shooting Sunday. The two of them had suffered some injuries, but they were not as serious as Kim Song's. They clearly still had the strength to fight. When facing an enemy, especially a mortal enemy, it is best not to show mercy. Otherwise, you will be bitten by a snake. Noticing that Kim Hong and Jin Ye still had the strength to fight, Tianyin School's sect master Xiao Tianxian transmitted his voice. Although he was currently only an illusory image that had transformed into an artifact spirit, his vision was still at the sovereign level. Facing two divine king crows, he was very confident in his control. Even if I don't continue to attack, the two of them will still plot against Tianyin Bao. Rather than being targeted by them, it is better to completely eliminate them while the sect master is still here. Knight Sorrow's attitude was also very resolute. Observing Kim Hong, Jin Ye, and Kim Song's hateful gazes, he swallowed a pill to recover his Yuan Qi and used the Sky Cloud Shooting Sun art against the three of them again. With the experience from last time, Knight Sorrow's movements were much more skillful. With the help and support of the Tianyin School's sect master Xiao Tianxian, he easily continued to shoot at the three golden crows. Although he did not use the cycle heavenly halberd, the three consecutive arrows were extremely powerful. The majestic arrow chi streaked across the sky and caused the void to buzz. Not only did Kim Hong, Jin Ye, and Kim Song feel immense pressure, but some of the golden crows standing in the distance were also scared out of their wits. As long as Knight Sorrow didn't have a bottom line and shot in their direction, the Golden Crow clan would definitely be in great trouble. This little bastard wants to use his own strength to unleash such an attack, and it's a continuous attack. It's simply impossible. If I'm not wrong, the artifact spirit in that bow is extremely powerful. It might even be close to the sovereign level. We shouldn't be a match for it. Kim Hong, who was being attacked, pondered for a moment before finally coming to a realization. If it's as Ancestor Hong said, and we continue to fight, won't what await us be eternal death? Upon hearing Kim Hong's words, Jinya immediately transmitted his voice. If the artifact spirit was at the sovereign level, it would indeed be very easy to kill them. Anyone with a connection to the sovereign level was not something the Divine King could look down on. My judgment is definitely not wrong. Otherwise, no matter how strong a high god is, he wouldn't be able to suppress us 3 Divine Kings to the point where we can't even fight back. It's not like you, and I haven't fought against other Divine Kings before. When have we ever been in such a sorry state? Therefore, there's only one reason. A sovereign artifact spirit is helping this kid. Kim Hong said with certainty. In fact, this was a logic that anyone could see, but they were somewhat oblivious to the situation. Although Night Sorrow was extraordinarily talented, he was only a high god. Even if he could slightly resist a lower Divine King, he was nothing in front of middle and upper Divine Kings like them. At this moment, the artifact spirit was suppressing the 3 of them to the point where they could not even fight back. It was definitely borrowing external strength. Now that Ancestor Hong has said so, it seems to be the case. Then what should we do? Kim Song, who had been severely injured by the cycle Heavenly Halberd and looked extremely weak, transmitted his voice. He was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. Chapter 2673. As he sighed helplessly, Kim Hong asked, "Do the 2 of you want to submit or escape?" Kim Song thought for a moment and said, "The ancient Golden Crow domain is the place where the Golden Crow race can live peacefully. Our ancestors once said that we can't leave this place or we'll be in danger of being exterminated. Now that we want to protect this place, although we don't feel good about it, we should still submit. There's nothing to be unhappy about. The 3rd Divine King of the Golden Crow race losing to a sovereign gray divine weapon isn't shameful. It's impossible for the Divine King to fight a sovereign gray divine weapon. Even if the sovereign gray divine weapon is an artifact spirit, it's still impossible," Jin Hong said with a resounding voice. Thinking of this, his mood immediately improved a lot. He continued asking, "Jinya, what do you think? Ancestor Hong's opinion is my opinion." Jinya looked at Night Sorrow and the sovereign gray divine weapon in his hand, Tianyan Bao. At this moment, Tianyan Bao's face was filled with intense killing intent. He looked like a wild beast that was ready to go berserk at any moment. Sigh. Undefeatable, undefeatable. In the end, the Divine King is just an ant against a sovereign gray divine weapon. Kim Hong shook his head when he sensed the sovereign gray divine weapon's aura erupting from Tianyan Bao. It's not shameful to lose to a sovereign gray divine weapon. I hope the 2 of you can pull yourself together. After transmitting a few words to Kim Song and Jinya, Kim Hong transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. "Little friend, stop. The Golden Crow race is willing to turn hostility into friendship. You think I'll stop just because you say so? How is that possible?" Night Sorrow could accept that Kim Hong of the Golden Crow race had chosen to submit. However, he wasn't prepared to stop immediately. If he did that, he would be able to obtain a lot less resources. One had to hit a snake before hitting it. When Night Sorrow blasted out the sky, cloud, sun shooting art again, Kim Song, who originally didn't want to lower his head, said, "Stop. The Golden Crow race will do our best to satisfy whatever you want. There's no need to continue." When he said this, Kim Song, who had already transformed into his human form, had an ugly expression on his face. "Since you said so, there's still room for discussion." Night Sorrow swallowed another pill to recover his divine essence energy. After recovering, he looked at the 3 Divine King. He asked, "Now that I have Tianyan Bao, I need some Divine King or Sovereign level Golden Crow feathers to create some arrows. Are you able to fulfill this request?" Night Sorrow, you've gone too far. There are only 3 Divine King in the Golden Crow clan, and that's the 3 of us. If you want the Golden Crow's feather, aren't you asking the 3 of us to pluck it? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the bad-tempered Kim Sung immediately exploded in anger. I don't want much, just 30 feathers. If I lack even one, I'll continue fighting. Although Night Sorrow was only a high god, he didn't show any fear in front of the Divine King. Moreover, with the support of Tianyun Bao and Tianyun School's sect master Xiao Tianxian, the other party's divine realm didn't have any effect on him. His speech wasn't affected at all. Impossible. Even if the Golden Crow clan dies in battle, we won't pluck out our own feathers. Kim Sung said furiously. If the Golden Crow clan forcibly plucked out their feathers, their cultivation would be affected. At this moment, Kim Hong said, "My young friend Night Sorrow, the Golden Crow clan agrees to your request. I, Kim Hong, will provide you with 30 feathers." As soon as he finished speaking, he plucked out 30 blood-stained feathers from his body. These feathers were all at the Divine King's level. Whether it was in terms of toughness or the fire attribute they contained, they were extremely shocking. With a little forging, they could be made into arrows with astonishing power. Hongzu, Night Sorrow, remember this, today's matter isn't over. Seeing Kim Hong pluck out 30 feathers himself, Kim Sung was so angry that his brain exploded. He threatened Night Sorrow. Haha, very good. I didn't think it was over either. Under such circumstances, Kim Sung still dared to speak ruthlessly. Night Sorrow sneered and said, "My next request is for the Golden Crow clan to open the treasury and let me choose any 3 items." Kim Sung, shut up. The situation is beyond our control. We don't have the ability to be unyielding right now. Kim Hong, who had chosen to admit defeat, was clearly a little weak because he had plucked out 30 feathers. He spoke weakly. He berated Kim Sung, who spoke without thinking, and looked at Night Sorrow. The Golden Crow clan can open the treasury, but you can only choose 1 item from it. What do you think? 3 items. Not a single one less. The sect master of Tianyun School, Xiao Tianxian, reminded Night Sorrow without waiting for him to answer. The Golden Crow clan had lived in seclusion for countless years and had accumulated an astonishing amount of treasures. If Night Sorrow could choose 3 treasures under his guidance, it would be of great help to improve his strength. In Xiao Tianchuan's opinion, Night Sorrow's weakest point was his cultivation. He wanted to find resources in the Golden Crow clan's treasury that could quickly improve his strength and help him reach peak High God, which was the half-step Divine Lord realm. Normally, continuous breakthroughs would cause the foundation to be unstable. Night Sorrow, who was at the upper High God realm, could even challenge the weaker Divine King. There was no problem with his foundation being weak. Sectmaster, water is not full. Night Sorrow replied to Xiao Tianxian, the sectmaster of Tianyun School, and said, "I will choose 2 items. Anything less is off the table." This, all right. Kim Hong was a little relieved that Night Sorrow had left some leeway in this matter. Kim Sung also stopped provoking him. "Take me to your treasury and don't activate any arrays. Otherwise, the Golden Crow clan will be completely wiped out today." Night Sorrow threatened as he followed Kim Hong to the treasury of the Golden Crow clan. He knew that caution was the parent of safety. If he were to be trapped in an extraordinary formation with his current strength, the consequences would be unimaginable. Don't worry, the Golden Crow clan won't stoop to such despicable and shameless things. After all, our late father was a sovereign. Kim Hong sighed and stopped in front of treasury. After today, the Golden Crow clan will need to spend a lot of resources to repair the hole in the ancient Golden Crow world. Please be merciful. With that, he sat in front of the treasury and didn't follow Night Sorrow in. This meant that if Night Sorrow was shameless, he could take 1 item after another. However, Night Sorrow was a man of his word. He looked at Kim Hong and said, "I cultivate the power of merit and never lie. If I say 2 items, it's 2 items. Don't worry." Power of merit? Hearing this, Kim Hong suddenly thought of something, but it was too fleeting and he couldn't grasp it. While pondering, he muttered, Father seems to have mentioned the power of merit. What is it? Chapter 2674. The Golden Crow's treasure trove was similar to their own. It radiated a dazzling light, and every corner of it was dazzling. What a dazzling sight! Night Sorrow said to Tianyin Bao's sect leader, Xiao Tianxian, as he walked into the treasure trove. Haha, this is the nature of the Golden Crows. Xiao Tianxian, the Tianyin school's sect leader, replied. You don't lack external items now. What you lack is your own cultivation. We'll focus on that. But if we find a sovereign grade item, we'll definitely prioritize it. Of course, Night Sorrow replied, then continued. Sect leader, Night Sorrow's cultivation has improved very quickly. Unfortunately, it hasn't been long since I ascended from the lower realm. I'm aware of your situation. Some of the big shots in the Eternal Supreme World know as well. Xiao Tianxian, the Tianyin school's sect leader, comforted him. In fact, if the Eternal Supreme World wasn't facing a crisis, the previous paragons wouldn't have pressured you. The crisis is simply too serious. As the saying goes, no egg can remain unbroken when the nest is overturned. If the front is breached, the entire God realm and its subordinate realms will cease to exist. The foreign races need cultivation resources. If the God realm is breached, all the cultivators in the God realm will be slaughtered. Sect leader, Night Sorrow understands. As Night Sorrow walked through the treasure trove, he felt a heavy burden on his shoulders when he heard Xiao Tianxian, the Tianyin school's sect leader. Given his personality, even if he didn't protect the God realm, protecting his family and the Nine Zones world was a must. Hey, there's a rainbow arcane spirit fruit on the platform up ahead. This divine king, grade spirit fruit, can increase one's cultivation with a little refinement and consumption. Xiao Tianxian, the Tianyin school's sect leader, reminded him. Can I consume a divine king, grade spirit fruit directly? Night Sorrow asked doubtfully as he removed the rainbow mysterious spirit fruit. Ha! With your foundation, how could items below the level of the divine king be effective? Tianyin school's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, smiled in response. Whether it was Night Sorrow's cultivation, physical strength, or divine soul strength, they all surpassed the divine lord level. Low-level items were no longer of any use to him. That's true. Sect Master, how do you refine this kind of spirit fruit? Night Sorrow continued to ask. It's very simple. This is the pill formula. The specific effects will depend on your talent in alchemy. Xiao Tianxian, who was in the heavenly cloud bow, passed on a pill formula called the Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill to Yishang. Good. After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm, I will search for the supplementary materials to refine this kind of pill, Night Sorrow said as he continued to search for other items. Tianyin School's sect leader, Xiao Tianxian, smiled and said, Why do you need to go outside to accumulate materials? I've checked the treasury of the Golden Crows. There are enough materials to support your alchemy on the spot. You promised them that you would only take 2 items. The Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill is one of them. Remember, mercy to your enemy is cruelty to yourself. That works too. Hearing the words of Xiao Tianxian, the clan master of the Tianyin clan, Yishang suddenly felt enlightened. He immediately searched for the supplementary materials to refine the Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill under Xiao Tianxuan's guidance. Night Sorrow took out the 8-dragon cauldron and purified the various materials. Then, he followed the formula to refine the Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill. Night Sorrow, your ability to purify pills is very good, but your alchemy skills are a little rough. You haven't been taught by a famous teacher, right? Xiao Tianxian, the sect leader of Tianyin Bao's Tianyin school, asked immediately after he saw Night Sorrow's alchemy skills. Night Sorrow, I've only been in the realm of the gods for a short time. I don't even have enough time to cultivate. Alchemy, weapon forging, and formation skills are a little neglected. Night Sorrow said honestly. He used to be a genius in these 3 areas, but now he didn't have time to study them. Alchemy, weapon forging, and formation skills can't be neglected. Keep this alchemy codex and study it carefully. You will soon be able to raise your alchemy skills to the king level. This will allow you to walk a smoother path in the future. Xiao Tianxian, the sect leader of Tianyin School, passed an illusory alchemy codex to Night Sorrow. As Night Sorrow was refining the rainbow profound spirit pill, he didn't have the energy to look through it. He didn't reply after that. After about a day, crackling sounds came from the 8-dragon cauldron. This was the sign of pill formation. Night Sorrow carefully controlled the flames in the Samsara halberd. Half a day later, under Night Sorrow's alchemy skills, the pill tribulation came. Kim Song, who was outside the treasury, saw the pill tribulation in the treasury. He was puzzled and asked, "Hongzu, what's going on? What else can it be?" "That kid is refining pills inside. It's the crucial moment of pill formation now." Kim Hong replied and continued. "He has the power of merit and good fortune. The Golden Crow clan can't provoke him in the future." He was still trying to recall what the Golden Crow clan ancestor had said, but he couldn't remember. "However, if I don't take revenge, I'm afraid my Tao heart will become unstable," Kim Song said unhappily. "With your strength, you won't be able to defeat Night Sorrow with the Tianyun Bao. You'd better give up, lest you affect the fortune of the Golden Crow clan. It's not a wise choice to go against someone with great merit," Kim Hong advised. He felt that Kim Song was a smart person and understood what he meant. He didn't say too much. Kim Song thought darkly, "I can't kill him, but that doesn't mean others can't. After today, I'll let the news that Night Sorrow has a sovereign-grade artifact spread throughout the divine realm. I don't believe that some sovereigns who don't have sovereign-grade artifacts won't be tempted." Kim Hong couldn't figure out Kim Song's thoughts. At this moment, the fragrance of pills wafted out from the Golden Crow clan's treasury. With the help of the Tianyin School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, Night Sorrow had refined a king-grade pill, Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill. Furthermore, he had refined 6 pills at once. The quality was pretty good. "These pills are pretty good. Try consuming one first. The Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill's effects are very strong. It's best not to consume too many at once." The Tianyin School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, reminded Yilingchen. "All right, Night Sorrow will remember this." After putting away the 8-dragon cauldron, Night Sorrow grabbed a Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill floating in the air and swallowed it immediately. The 7-colored Profound Spirit Elixir might have a beautiful name, but its medicinal effects were very strong. After swallowing it, Yishang felt as if a huge dragon was wreaking havoc in his body. He felt as if his entire body was being torn apart. "Hang in there," Xiao Tianxian, who knew what kind of impact Night Sorrow was facing, reminded him with a smile. Back when he was a lower divine king, he had swallowed a Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill and directly advanced to a middle divine king. Now, that Night Sorrow had swallowed it at the high divine realm. The pain must be 100 times worse than what he had experienced back then. Only through hardship can one rise above others. "I'll hang in there." Chapter 2675. Actually, tenacity is also a kind of cultivation talent. I'm relieved to see you persevere under such pain. Tianyin School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, said with relief when he saw that Night Sorrow was in so much pain that he didn't even make a sound. "This is nothing." Night Sorrow was still persevering. He waited for the first Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill's effects to wear off before swallowing another one. After swallowing the 6th Rainbow Profound Spirit Pill, Night Sorrow's cultivation reached peak High God, which meant that he was a half-step Divine Lord. A half-step Divine Lord is only half a level stronger than a High God, but there's a qualitative increase in strength. Night Sorrow thanks Sect Master for your guidance. Night Sorrow thanked him as he sensed the change in strength. Without Xiao Tianxian, it would have taken him countless years to become a half-step Divine Lord. Night Sorrow had originally wanted to become a High God on this trip to the ancient Golden Crow world, but he had unexpectedly reached peak High God. This made him very happy. "Night Sorrow, my appearance has brought you a certain amount of opportunities, but it has also brought you a lot of unnecessary trouble. Once you leave this place, you'll most likely be hunted down by a sovereign. Are you afraid of a ruler? Xiao Tianxian and Tian Yunbao analyzed. Knight Sorrow thought for a moment and said, in terms of strength, I have no way of fighting back against a ruler. However, in terms of mental strength, there are people who can make me feel respect, but I definitely won't feel fear. Very good. Your path won't be smooth, but I'll do my best to pave it for you. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, promised Knight Sorrow. After saying this, he continued, we've finished choosing the first item. Let's continue looking for the second one. Okay, I was thinking the same thing. As he spoke, Knight Sorrow was thinking about the matter of the ruler. There was no question that he didn't have the slightest ability to fight back against the sovereign. Since that was the case, there was no point in considering it. After that, Knight Sorrow continued to search the treasury of the Golden Crow clan with the help of Xiao Tianxian, the head of the Tianyan school. After a careful search, Knight Sorrow took out a head-sized sovereign stone. This master stone was 7 or 8 times larger than the one he obtained from Tianqing Gate. It could be used to improve the grade of the Samsara halberd. Furthermore, it could be added when refining the Golden Crow's feathers. This way, the arrows refined would be much more powerful. The ruler's stone you chose is very useful. Originally, I wanted you to finish refining the arrows before leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm, but I can't hold on for that long. Come back to Tianyan School with me. I have something to tell you. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, immediately spoke after Knight Sorrow obtained the sovereign stone. There was a hint of helplessness in his tone. Clearly, his artifact spirit body was about to run out of energy. Okay, sect master, I'm leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm. Knight Sorrow responded and walked out of the treasury of the Golden Crow clan. At this moment, Kim Hong and Jin Ye were waiting at the entrance of the treasury. When he saw Knight Sorrow come out, Kim Hong cupped his hands and said, little friend Knight Sorrow, if you need anything in the future, you can call this old man at any time. Please don't hold a grudge. As long as the Golden Crow clan doesn't attack me again, Knight Sorrow won't hold a grudge. Farewell. Knight Sorrow looked at Kim Hong and then at Kim Song. When he realized that Kim Song wasn't around, he asked, where's Kim Song? Did he go to scheme against me? No. He's just seriously injured and went back to recuperate. Kim Hong explained with a smile. There was a hint of nervousness in his tone. However, his fear came from Tianyan Bao. Knight Sorrow was nothing in his eyes. That's for the best. If he's stubborn, I'll definitely make him and the Golden Crow clan regret it. Before he left, Knight Sorrow looked at Kim Hong and Jin Ye and said coldly. He had a strong feeling that Kim Song wasn't around because he was plotting something against him. Little friend, take care. After watching Knight Sorrow leave, Kim Hong sent a voice transmission to Jin Ye. Go and see if Kim Song is recuperating in his cave abode. Sigh. That troublesome Kim Song. Jin Ye sighed and flew to Kim Song's cave abode. When he arrived, he found that he wasn't there at all. He sighed and returned to Kim Hong's side. He said, Kim Song really isn't here. I think he's probably gone to spread the news that Knight Sorrow has a ruler artifact. Sigh. Even after so many reincarnations, he still hasn't gotten rid of his evil aura. I could feel that there was an unstoppable aura coming from Knight Sorrow. How about this? Go and catch up to him before he achieves anything. Follow by his side and help him. I hope this can resolve the trouble that Kim Song has brought. Kim Hong pondered for a moment and then explained to Jin Ye. Yes, Hongzhu. As the divine king, Jin Ye wasn't displeased at being sent to follow a high god. In his view, although Knight Sorrow only has the cultivation of a high god, his true strength is not inferior to the divine king. Following such a person is not shameful. Therefore, he quickly caught up with Knight Sorrow, who was about to leave the ancient Golden Crow realm. He said, little friend Knight Sorrow, please wait. Knight Sorrow looked at Jin Ye, the divine king of the Golden Crow race, and asked doubtfully, what's the matter? Jin Ye said truthfully, the matter is like this. Kim Song has already spread some unfavorable rumors about you. Hongzhu asked me to follow you to battle to resolve this matter. You guys are very sincere in doing this. Knight Sorrow nodded and continued. But then again, a gentleman doesn't stand under a collapsing wall. As the middle divine king, if you stay by my side, you can find an opportunity to kill me at any time. If you really want to resolve the matter with Kim Song, then make a heavenly oath to help me wholeheartedly before I become the divine king. That's no problem, but when it comes to life and death, Jinya was halfway through his sentence when Knight Sorrow nodded and said, if the enemy's strength exceeds yours by too much, you can leave immediately. However, as long as we have the strength to fight, I hope you can fight to the end. That's no problem. I, Jinya, swear. After Jinya made the heavenly oath, Knight Sorrow temporarily accepted him, ascending to the top and calling for help from all directions. This is the general trend of success. Jinya, the divine king, joined Knight Sorrow, the Tianyan school's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, and transmitted his voice with a smile. I hope so. According to Jinya, Kim Song has already left the ancient Golden Crow realm. He must be plotting something. Knight Sorrow said worriedly. Currently, he was not too afraid of the divine king, but he did not have the ability to resist a ruler. It's okay. We'll deal with it as it comes. Before this artifact spirit body is completely destroyed, this sect master will do his best to help you solve all your problems. Chapter 2676. You flatter me, sect leader. Knight Sorrow replied humbly. Then, he flew out of the ancient Golden Crow realm with Jinya. Boom! As soon as the two of them flew out of the ancient Golden Crow realm, the tribulation clouds, filled with lightning, flew toward Knight Sorrow. This seems to be the thunder tribulation of a king-grade artifact. Jinya immediately warned when he saw the tribulation clouds. It should be the divine king's tribulation of the Samsara halberd. Looking at the terrifying tribulation clouds, Yishang immediately took out the Samsara halberd and said, Supreme being Golden Nya, please protect me from any sneak attacks. All right, since I've made a vow, I'll protect you sincerely, Jinya said. Then he activated his king-grade divine domain and put up his guard. Thank you so much. Knight Sorrow thanked him and flew into the sky with the Samsara halberd in his hand, waiting for the tribulation clouds to arrive. While waiting for the tribulation clouds to arrive, Knight Sorrow said, the thunder tribulation of a king-grade artifact is so fierce. However, I'll take the opportunity to refine some arrows. If I can make good use of the power of lightning, the arrows will be extraordinarily powerful. Sect leader, what do you think? Since you have such thoughts, I don't know how to persuade you. Xiao Tianxian, the sect leader of the Tianyan school, said helplessly, stopping you is the same as stopping your Taoist heart. If I don't stop you, I'm afraid I'll be harming you. With your cultivation level, it'll be very difficult for you to resist the thunder tribulation of a king-grade artifact. Knight Sorrow will do his best. Knight Sorrow replied to Xiao Tianxian, the sect leader of the Tianyan school. Then he took out 10 golden crow feathers and held them in his left hand. He held the Samsara halberd in his right hand. At this moment, accompanied by a rumbling sound, the first bolt of tribulation lightning struck down violently. Good timing. Yishang tossed out the Samsara halberd in the face of this lightning tribulation, allowing it to be baptized. At the same time, he began to refine the golden swan's feather in the lightning. Knight Sorrow's actions seemed to have infuriated the thunder tribulation. In an instant, the thunder tribulation of the Samsara heavenly halberd surged by almost 10 times. Even the middle divine king, Jinya, couldn't help but shiver when he saw the thunderbolts that filled the sky. He thought to himself, this Knight Sorrow won't be struck to death by lightning, right? However, the answer that reality gave him was clearly not like that. Facing the violent lightning, Knight Sorrow continued to refine Kim Hong's feather. He also used the immortal divine art from the Myriad Tao treasure tome to strengthen his body. In the end, Kim Hong's 10 feathers were refined into 9 golden arrows. Not only were these arrows extremely powerful in the fire attribute, they also contained a terrifying power of thunder. When combined with Tianyun Bao's attack, it would definitely be extremely powerful. These 9 arrows are already at the peak of the king grade. I didn't expect you to successfully refine them. Now you can name them. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, praised Knight Sorrow when he saw that he had successfully refined the arrows. Since these arrows are refined for Tianyan Bao, let's call them Sky Cloud arrows. After Knight Sorrow named them, he didn't stop what he was doing. He took out the ruler's stone and let the Samsara halberd and Sky Cloud arrow absorb it. The Samsara halberd, which had become a king grade divine artifact, was much tougher than before. After absorbing the ruler's stone, the entire body of the halberd was absorbed, not just the tip. The Sky Cloud arrow was about the same. Because there were enough ruler stones, the 9 golden arrows were all upgraded. After absorbing the ruler's stone, the Sky Cloud arrow wasn't as bright as before, but its aura was much stronger. Very good. Knight Sorrow nodded in satisfaction when he saw that the Samsara halberd and Sky Cloud arrow had both been upgraded. Without a doubt, you are now the #1 high god in the history of the god realm. Quickly return to Tianyan School. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, was very satisfied when he saw Knight Sorrow's performance. After that, Knight Sorrow hurried back to Tianyan School. After returning to Tianyan School, Knight Sorrow didn't immediately return to Night Moon Peak. Instead, he went to the Sky Cloud staircase. Knight Sorrow, to tell you the truth, the foundation of Tianyan School is the Sky Cloud staircase in front of you. However, until now, no one has been able to reach the top. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, sighed and continued. Back then, Jinyi had a chance to reach the top. However, due to some matters, he left Tianyan School to establish his own faction. Because of that, he missed the opportunity. I hope that you can successfully reach the top and make it recognize you as its master. Make the Sky Cloud staircase recognize me as its master. Knight Sorrow asked doubtfully. According to the records, the Sky Cloud staircase is a sovereign-level artifact. It can only be fully activated when one reaches the top. It's because of our incompetence that it's gathering dust here. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, said regretfully, when I was in the Divine King realm, I was only 1 step away. However, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach the top. I'll give it a try. It's a good opportunity to test my current strength. Knight Sorrow said. Then, he flew towards the Sky Cloud staircase and began to climb. Compared to when he first entered the sect and climbed with Lu Qingyuan, Knight Sorrow's strength had increased by more than just a little. 10,000. 20,000. Soon, he reached the 80,000th step. At this time, Knight Sorrow began to feel the pressure of a mountain pressing down on him. Then he activated the Treyastrimsa Battle Mystic technique and barely held on for a while. Finally, he stopped at the 87,673 step. Very good. As a high deity, he was able to climb to the 87,673 position. You're much better than me at the same stage. I'm sure you can reach the top when you're in the monarch level. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, was very satisfied with Knight Sorrow's performance. Then, he said, you can activate the Sky Cloud staircase when you reach the top. Don't tell anyone. Yes, sect master. Lord sect master. Yishang nodded in response. At this time, some elders of the sect brought some young boys and girls here to wait for the Sky Cloud staircase. Knight Sorrow, who wanted to avoid them, used the Void Extreme Shadow Body and hid far away. Your mystic technique and movement technique to increase your strength are very good, but there's still room for improvement. Take me to the main peak. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxian, praised Knight Sorrow and asked him to take him to the main peak of the Tianyan School. Someone has settled down here? After arriving at the main peak, Xiao Tianxuan's voice changed immediately. It's Deputy Sect Master Yuan Tianji. He broke through to the Divine King level and became the acting sect master during the Tianyan School's crisis. Knight Sorrow told him about the extraterrestrial demon and Ho Jun. It's not a problem to make him the acting sect master or even the sect master. Tianyan School's sect master, Xiao Tianxuan's voice was a little cold. but there are some rules that can't be broken. Do you really think that I, Xiao Tianxian, am dead? Don't be angry, Sect Master. Deputy Sect Master Yuan Tianji did play a very important role at that time. Yishang had a good impression of Yuan Tianji and spoke up for him. Chapter 2677. Lord Sect Master, let's look for your people first. We'll talk about it when we see them. Hearing Xiao Tianchuan's words, Knight Sorrow, who originally thought that Yuan Tianji's actions were justifiable, also had some thoughts in his mind. However, this matter was still uncertain at the moment, so he did not think too much about it. But there was no time in the God world. Generally speaking, as long as the death of the Sect Master was not confirmed, very few people would replace him. Even if they became the acting Sect Master, they would not choose to live in someone else's peak. All right, take me for a walk around the main peak. Xiao Tianxian, the Sect Master of Tianyan School, said coldly. Like Knight Sorrow, he cared about his family very much. He did not want to see his family being bullied while he was fighting in the Eternal Supreme World. Lord Sect Master, your family might not have suffered injustice. Let's take a look at the situation first. Knight Sorrow transmitted his voice to the other party. Then, holding the Tianyan bow, he avoided the guards and sneaked into Tianyan Peak, because this was the only way to see the true appearance of Tianyan Peak. Under Xiao Tianchuan's command, Knight Sorrow went to several places and found that Yuan Tianji's people were guarding them. Entering the secret room, he found that Xiao Tianchuan's resources and books had been swept clean. After searching for a few rounds, he finally found Xiao Tianchuan's people in the dungeon. Bastard! Yuan Tianji, I, Xiao Tianxian, have taken good care of you. Is this how you repay me? With Knight Sorrow's help, Xiao Tianxian saw his clansmen in the dungeon and immediately appeared from the Tianyan bow. Lord Sect Master, you're back. You're finally back. Seeing Xiao Tianchuan's figure appear, more than 100 clansmen in the dungeon immediately knelt down and bowed to him. Realizing that Xiao Tianxian was just an artifact spirit phantom, one of the upper divine lords asked in a trembling voice, Lord Sect Master, are you? He wanted to ask if Xiao Tianxian had fallen, but he didn't. I haven't perished. On the contrary, I've already become a sovereign. It's just that they've already gone to another realm to fight for the God realm. Xiao Tianchuan's voice was laced with anger. After calming down, he said, Tell me what happened after I left. In the few reincarnations after you left, Yuan Tianji and Ho Jun had been competing with each other. Both of them treated our Xiao clansmen very well. As the High Divine Lord Old Man spoke to hear, he sighed. Yuan Tianji's performance has always been extremely appropriate. As for Ho Jun, he has gradually joined forces with the foreign races, so we naturally lean towards Yuan Tianji. However, after obtaining our approval, Yuan Tianji suddenly turned hostile and imprisoned all of our clansmen in the dungeon. He also interrogated the clan leader about the resources left behind by the clan leader. In order to prevent further harm to my people, I can only... Good, very good. Yuan Tianji, your schemes are indeed as deep as the ocean. Xiao Tianxian, who had already walked out of Tianyan Bao, could sense everything that was happening at Tianyan Peak. He sneered and said, Not only did he take away all of my resources, but he also set up a formation. Yuan Tianji, you're really something. Lord Sect Master, what do you plan to do? Facts spoke louder than words. Although Knight Sorrow had a good impression of Yuan Tianji, it was truly shameful for him to do such a thing in secret. According to my state of mind before I became a sovereign, I would choose to kill him directly. Xiao Tianxian sighed and said, But from the current situation, if I kill him, Tianyan School will definitely fall into chaos. Forget it. Take my clansmen with you. When you go to the Eternal Supreme Realm, bring them here. Lord Sect Master, Knight Sorrow will do his best to protect your family's safety. When Knight Sorrow heard Xiao Tianchuan's words, he was puzzled at first, but then he was full of admiration. Although he was only an artifact spirit now, with the strength of a sovereign, killing a divine king like Yuan Tianji was a piece of cake. For the sake of Tianyan School, he chose not to take revenge. In any case, Night Sorrow would definitely not do such a thing. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow said, Lord Sect Master, although you chose to endure, Night Sorrow does not want to stay in a dirty sect. After today, Night Sorrow will withdraw from Tianyun School and establish his own sect. Originally, I wanted to pass the position of Sect Master to you, but now it seems that there is no need for that. Your future is very bright, and there is no need to fight for power with someone like Yuan Tianji. Xiao Tianxian sighed and continued, Third uncle, take out the things I left behind and give them to Night Sorrow. I don't think those things have been taken by Yuan Tianji, right? Of course not. Elder Xiao Honyuan took out a package from his spatial artifact and handed it to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow opened it and found that there were 2 books inside. One was called The Heavenly Mystery Secret Technique, and the other was called the Profound Sky Roaming Dragon Technique. They were secret techniques that could increase one's strength and movement techniques respectively. The Heavenly Mystery Secret Technique can increase one's strength by 13 times. The Profound Sky Roaming Dragon Technique is much stronger than the Void Extreme Shadow Body. It is just right for me after my strength increases. Night Sorrow flipped through the 2 books and did not refuse. He said, Thank you, Lord Sect Master. Night Sorrow will take good care of your family. When you establish your own sect in the future, you will definitely encounter all kinds of setbacks. What I can do is to pave a path for you in the end. Xiao Tianxian said, and took the Sect Master's token from Tianyun Bao. This token is the Tianyun School Sect Master's token. If Yuan Tianji does a good job as acting Sect Master when you become the Divine King, you can leave the Sect Master's token behind. If he goes against the flow and treats Tianyun School as his exclusive property, you will kill him on my behalf and choose another Sect Master. Yes, Night Sorrow will remember. Night Sorrow nodded in response. At this time, Xiao Tianxian continued, Do you have family in Tianyun School? If you do, keep them in your spatial artifact. If there are no accidents, a storm that will shake the divine world is coming. Okay, I will go now. Night Sorrow responded and went to Night Moon Peak and Endless Peak to keep all of his clansmen in the Clear Sky Pagoda. Night Sorrow, who was holding the Tianyun Bao, had just kept all of his clansmen in the Clear Sky Pagoda. In the void, a loud shout sounded. Night Sorrow, hand over the sovereign deity weapon in your hands, and I will spare your life. The one who shouted was a divine king. Who are you? Why are you shouting? Night Sorrow did not know which divine king this person was, but with Jin Ye's help and his own strength, he was not afraid of any divine king. I am the divine king of Azura. Today, I am here to take the sovereign deity weapon. If you know what's good for you, hand it over quickly. Otherwise, not only will you die, but the entire Tianyun School will be razed to the ground. The Azura God King's tone contained a trace of coldness. Facing his threat, Yishan said disdainfully, You're simply courting death by saying such words. Although I, Night Sorrow, will withdraw from Tianyun School today, I will not tolerate your impudence. The main force of Tianyun School had already gone to war with Tan Xingfeng and Yuan Tianji. Those who stayed behind were basically the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled. When they heard the Divine King of Azura's words, none of them dared to show their faces. Chapter 2678. How dare a lowly, exalted god stare at the Divine King with hatred? Are you tired of living? The Azura God King's face was filled with disdain when he saw Yishang appear. Even Jin Ye, who was beside Yishang, was completely disregarded by him. I think you're tired of living. You're just a Divine King. Do you really think you're the ruler? Night Sorrow didn't say anything. Jin Ye, who was completely ignored by the Divine King, scolded him unhappily. The Golden Crows had been in seclusion for many years. They finally appeared today, but they were completely ignored. This made him very unhappy. Ah, are you Kim Hong, or Eugenia of the Golden Crows? I heard that you all submitted to our exalted god. How dare you come out and embarrass yourself with such strength? If I were you, I would definitely hide in the barren land of the ancient Golden Crow world and never come out. The Divine King looked at Kim Song with disdain. Clearly, Kim Song had already told him everything that had happened in the ancient Golden Crow world. Kim Song, this traitor, he doesn't represent the Golden Crows. After hearing the Divine King's words, Jinya immediately sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow to explain. He didn't want him to think that the Golden Crows were two-faced. I know, there's no need to explain this, but I'll be enemies with Kim Song. If the Golden Crows protect him, I won't be polite. Night Sorrow said coldly. If an ordinary exalted god had said this, Jinya would have slapped him to death. However, he didn't feel that it was inappropriate for Night Sorrow to say it. He immediately replied, "After today's matter, I'll report to the clan leader and expel him from the Golden Crows. I'm sure the clan leader won't object to this." Jinya was also unhappy that Kim Song had told him everything that had happened in the ancient Golden Crow world. After all, this wasn't a glorious matter for the Golden Crows. Kim Song's actions were like airing their dirty linen in public. We'll talk about Kim Song later. Today's matter should be very big, much bigger than anyone can imagine. Recalling Xiao Tianxuan's words, Night Sorrow reminded Jinya. For a sovereign to say that a storm that would shake the entire god realm meant that a sovereign was on the way. The Divine King of Azura should be nothing more than a shrimp in the vanguard. Could it be that a sovereign will appear? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Jinya immediately became vigilant. It's very likely that a sovereign artifact will attract a sovereign. Night Sorrow confirmed. Today's matter might have already exceeded their agreement. You can leave at any time. Jinya, have never seen the sovereign's true body. If I can see it today, then even if I have to risk being slapped to death, it will be worth it. Jinya had no intention of leaving. He was full of fighting spirit, as he said, "Let me meet this divine King Azura." I wanted to fight myself, but his words are already a slap to your face. I'll give you the chance. Night Sorrow nodded and gave him the chance to fight the divine King Azura. In truth, the Tianyan bow in his hand was already trembling. He really wanted to test the power of the newly refined sky, Cloud Arrow. Are you whispering to each other about how to surrender? Or are you scheming? I'm not afraid to tell you that you won't be able to do anything today. As long as you don't hand over the sovereign artifact, you won't be able to escape death. The Divine King of Azura had an arrogant smile on his face. In his opinion, with the sovereign of all heaven as his backer, he was almost certain that he would be able to obtain the sovereign artifact today. We're just discussing who will kill you. Jinya's words were filled with killing intent. Hearing this, the Divine King of Azura revealed a cruel smile. I already promised Kim Song that I wouldn't attack your Golden Crow clan. But now you're the one who's throwing yourself at the barrel of a gun. You can't blame me for this. You dare to speak so arrogantly? You're just barking like a dog. Jinya's face was also filled with confidence. He could sense that the Divine King of Azura's aura was inferior to his. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The Divine King of Azura's face revealed a crazed expression as he took out an extremely powerful artifact from his spatial artifact. This was a divine artifact that was between the king and dominator rank. A divine artifact close to the sovereign grade? No wonder you dare to speak so arrogantly with such a weak cultivation. Seeing the Divine King of Azura take out a divine artifact that looked like a dagger, Jinya was slightly surprised. Divine artifacts of this level were usually forged by sovereigns. Being able to take out a half-step sovereign-grade artifact is my ability. If you don't have this ability, then you can only passively take a beating. The Divine King of Azura had a smug look on his face. Being able to use such a powerful divine artifact was something he had never experienced before. Even if you can use the divine sword in front of you, so what? The difference in strength between us isn't that easy to make up for. After a brief moment of shock, Jinya immediately recovered and took out his own King-grade divine artifact. His King-grade divine artifact was a copper cauldron. This was a divine artifact that the Golden Crow tribe liked very much. It could be used to unleash the Golden Crow tribe's innate flame. After taking out the copper cauldron, Jin Ye, who had transformed into his human form, immediately activated it and shot a thick and powerful flame at the divine king of Azura. The Golden Crow tribe's innate flame? If it was in the past, this divine king of Azura might have been afraid. But now, haha, just a small trick. The divine king of Azura had a tinge of arrogance on his face as he activated the dagger in his hand and shot a resplendent sword light at the flame. The resplendent sword light and the dazzling flame collided, immediately creating a huge explosion. The momentum was somewhat monstrous, shattering the void into pieces. Jin Ye's flame was completely exhausted and didn't have any offensive effect. However, there was still some light left from the dagger, and it shot toward Jin Ye's divine sea. This divine artifact does have some tricks up its sleeve. Jin Ye muttered to himself as he saw the azure sword light shooting toward him. He used the copper cauldron in his hand to block it again. Is this the only move you know? The divine king of Azura taunted Jin Ye when he saw him use the copper cauldron again. At the same time, he used his left hand, which wasn't holding his sword, to unleash the Azura tribe's heart-pressing palm. Your ultimate technique is even worse. Jin Ye, who had blocked the sword light, immediately used the Golden Crow tribe's innate technique when he saw the divine king of Azura unleash a palm strike. Golden Crow illuminating the world. His body turned into a streak of light and shot toward his opponent like the sun. You're using your ultimate technique already? It seems like your strength is about the same as what Kim Sung said. Your moves are so simple that they're almost negligible. The divine king of Azura sneered when he saw Jin Ye in his Golden Crow form attacking him. He used his Azura origin to activate the Dagger Divine artifact and unleashed an even more ferocious attack than before. Jin Ye, be careful. This move isn't simple. Chapter 2679. Although the momentum of this move wasn't too great, it gave Yishang an extremely dangerous feeling. While reminding Jin Ye, he immediately made preparations to attack. Don't worry, I'm not that easy to deal with. At this moment, Jin Ye suddenly used a secret technique to increase his strength and unleashed another ultimate move. Golden Crow burns the heavens. The fiery light that filled the sky immediately enveloped the surrounding space. Even the attack that the Azura God King had unleashed was enveloped within it. Oh, so strong. Seeing Jin Ye unleash such a powerful ultimate move, Night Sorrow was slightly surprised. Back then, Jin Ye hadn't used this move when they were fighting. Not bad. Very strong. The Azura God King was slightly surprised that his attack using the short sword was once again neutralized. However, he did not panic. He also used a secret technique to increase his strength and activated the short sword that the Overlord of all Heaven had given him. He despised Jin Ye for being too simplistic. In fact, he only had this short sword as his trump card. However, after activating it this time, it did explode with a considerable amount of energy. Its power almost shattered the sky. So strong. Is this the Divine King's strongest attack? In the Clear Sky Pagoda, Night Sorrow's new wife, Jing Yun, saw this attack and immediately said worriedly, "Husband, you have to be careful." "Yes, husband. The Divine King's attack is no small matter. Take care of yourself." Sikong Chiyu also warned. In her opinion, the Divine King's attack was too strong. It wasn't something that the exalted gods could resist. She was very worried for Night Sorrow. "It's okay, don't be afraid. This kind of attack shouldn't be able to hurt me." Night Sorrow, who was using the sea serpent's eye to observe the attack, transmitted his voice to his wife in the Clear Sky Pagoda. He comforted his father, Yi Wuyo, his mother, and the other clansmen. The Divine King's might was a little too strong for them. Even Lin Piaomiao, who had awakened the Paragon bloodline, felt a little suppressed. However, with Night Sorrow's consolation, their emotions gradually calmed down. After all, Night Sorrow had never disappointed them. "I don't think you can block this move." In the face of the dagger's outburst, Jinya sent a telepathic message to Night Sorrow. Upon hearing Jinya's voice transmission, Night Sorrow said, "Try to avoid unnecessary injuries. Come back." All right. Facing the Divine King of Azura's explosive attack, Jinya spat out a mouthful of blood essence to strengthen his flames. After colliding with the Divine King of Azura, he immediately fled from the center of the battlefield. He didn't take this attack head-on. The people of the Golden Crow clan are indeed weak and as cowardly as mice. When the Divine King of Azura saw Jinya return to Night Sorrow's side, he immediately began to mock him. "What's there to be arrogant about? You're just a piece of trash who barely beat me by relying on a divine artifact." In the face of the Divine King of Azura's mockery, Jinya replied indifferently. In his opinion, losing to a divine artifact refined by a sovereign was nothing to be ashamed of. The Divine King of Azura's face had a smug smile. Is relying on a divine artifact not strength? Loser, hurry up and get the hell away from this Divine King of Azura. After cursing Jinya in high spirits, he stared at Night Sorrow with a malicious gaze. "Ant, the Divine King you're relying on has been completely defeated. Hand over the sovereign divine artifact immediately. In your hands, it's like a pearl covered in dust. Whether or not it's like a pearl covered in dust has nothing to do with you. Trash." Night Sorrow's pupils constricted as he looked at the Divine King of Azura. One of his hands was already resting on the newly refined sky cloud arrow, ready to attack at a moment's notice. If this Divine King of Azura is trash, then as a high god, you aren't even trash. After being mocked by Night Sorrow, the Divine King of Azura was unable to restrain his anger. "I'll give you 3 breaths of time to hand over the sovereign divine artifact in your hands. Otherwise, the Tianyun school will be completely destroyed today. You don't have the strength to do so." Night Sorrow took out a sky cloud arrow and placed it on the Tianyun bow. Then, he aimed at the Divine King of Azura. He already had some experience fighting against the Divine King in the ancient Golden Crow world, so he didn't panic at this moment. The Night Moon clansmen and the Horn clansmen in the Clear Sky Pagoda were all worried. Although the Horn clansmen had seen Night Sorrow shoot down the sun, they were still very worried about the divine artifact in the hands of the Divine King of Azura. "Brother Night Sorrow, be careful." Even the Divine King Jinya couldn't withstand the attack of that divine artifact. "You must be careful." Jiao Kong couldn't help but remind him from within the spatial Dharma treasure. "It's fine. No matter how strong his divine artifact is, it's only a half-step sovereign divine artifact. The Tianyun Bao is a true sovereign divine artifact." Night Sorrow had a trace of confidence on his face as he replied. Then, he used the sea serpent's eye to stare at the Divine King of Azura. "Since you want to die, then don't blame this Divine King of bullying the weak. You holding a sovereign divine artifact is no different from a child holding a saber. You won't be able to do anything." The Divine King of Azura said coldly with a short sword in his hand. Then he attacked Night Sorrow. Unlike when he fought Jinya, he chose to close the distance as soon as he used his divine domain. Although he looked down on Night Sorrow, the Divine King of Azura had heard from Kim Song that Night Sorrow's Sky Cloud sun shooting art was powerful. He didn't want to be a target. "You want to close the distance? It's not as simple as you think." Night Sorrow, who had been using the sea serpent's eye to observe his opponent's movements, activated the 33 Skies battle mystic technique. After increasing his strength, he released his divine domain. He hadn't had time to learn the mysterious sky battle mystic technique that Shao Tianxian had given him. Although Night Sorrow's divine domain was definitely not as powerful as the Divine King of Azura's, the pressure he felt immediately lessened. This allowed him to draw his bow and knock an arrow. Sky Cloud, sun shooting art. The Divine King of Azura's figure flickered in the void. It was very difficult to pinpoint his position. Night Sorrow, who had activated the sea serpent's eye, could see through it. He used the Sky Cloud sun shooting art and shot out 3 arrows in a row. These arrows that had been strengthened by the Sovereign Stone After being shot out, each of them had a powerful aura. So powerful, little 13th can actually shoot out such a powerful attack. Yang Lei, who was in the clear sky pagoda, immediately exclaimed in admiration when she saw Night Sorrow unleash such a powerful attack. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the power of this attack was earth-shattering. It made her feel relaxed and happy. Upon hearing Yang Lei's words, Aoi, who had also relaxed a little, smiled and said, "Ninth junior sister, can you say that you can shoot? Can you not say the word shoot next time? I always feel weird." Sixth senior sister, you've always been dignified. I didn't expect you to have this kind of ability. After realizing the meaning behind Aoi's words, Yang Lei's cheeks turned red. Unlike the relaxed feeling in the clear sky pagoda, the divine king of Azura, who was originally full of confidence, immediately felt a headache when facing Night Sorrow's sky cloud sun shooting art. Chapter 2680. Why do these 3 arrows make this divine king's heart palpitate? Since I can't escape, I'll destroy you all. After fleeing through the void for a while, the divine king, who had originally looked down on Night Sorrow, began to take him seriously. Using the short sword divine artifact in his hand, he fired 3 beams of energy at the 3 sky cloud arrows. In his view, Night Sorrow was only a high god. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't possibly unleash the full power of Tianyan Bao. He was confident in his ability to fight back. Boom, boom, boom. Although the sky cloud arrows were very fast, they were still inanimate objects. The Divine King's intentional bombardment was immediately intercepted by the short sword's light. However, after the 3 arrows were blocked, one of them was not shot down. Instead, it continued to shoot toward the Azura God King, piercing through his shoulder blade. "Ant, you actually injured this Divine King." The Divine King was immediately enraged by the sky cloud arrow piercing his shoulder blade. Being injured by a high god was a great humiliation to all Divine Kings. "So what if I injured you? I was planning to kill you today. No matter who you are, you'll be punished for behaving so atrociously in Tianyun School's territory." Yishang said in disdain as he swallowed a pill. Although he had become a half-step divine lord after taking the Rainbow Profound Spirit pill, the current Tianyun didn't have Xiao Tianquan's support, so it was very strenuous for him to move. After firing just 3 sky cloud arrows, he was almost completely exhausted. "I don't believe that you can keep using a sovereign divine artifact like this." Noticing Night Sorrow's action of swallowing a pill, the Divine King revealed a cruel smile. To him, the injury on his shoulder was nothing, but the humiliation in his heart was a little greater. "Die, you ant!" Azura, God-killing fist. As the Divine King of Shura slashed out with his short sword, he used his left hand to unleash a unique skill of the Shura clan, the Shura God-killing fist. When this move was unleashed, it looked like it was only a single punch. But in the blink of an eye, it turned into a sky full of fist shadows. It looked like the Divine King of Azura had turned into a sky full of shadows and punched from different directions. It's useless to be so flashy. This kind of fist technique would have been very powerful for anyone else, even the Divine King. However, Night Sorrow had the Sea Serpent's eye and could easily see where the Divine King of Azura's true body was. He drew his bow and shot a sky cloud arrow at his Dantian. The sky cloud arrow, which had been strengthened by the Sovereign Stone, transformed into a thrown spear after it was shot out. His aura was extremely shocking. This made the Shao Tianxian clansmen in the Clear Sky Pagoda completely stupefied. Although their family had produced a formidable ruler, this was the first time they'd seen such a powerful god. Damn it! How could this Divine King of Azura's ultimate technique be seen through so easily? Seeing that Night Sorrow not only easily dodged the sword light, but also saw through his true body in an instant, the Divine King of Azura roared furiously. At the same time, he began to dodge the sky cloud arrow, which had been strengthened by the Sovereign Stone. This time, Night Sorrow only shot one arrow, but its power was much greater than the previous 3 arrows. Even as the Divine King of Azura, he didn't dare to underestimate him, because your attacks are too crude. Without the help of a divine weapon, you should be the weakest among the Divine King. You might even be weaker than me. Night Sorrow said disdainfully. Then he swallowed another pill, drew his bow, and shot another arrow at his opponent. After the first arrow, another arrow. This time, he shot out 5 arrows in a row. The Divine King of Azura, who was already badly battered by a single heavenly cloud arrow, immediately found himself unable to withstand the 5 arrows shot by Night Sorrow. Lord Ruler, save me. This god is a little strange. I'm not his match. Night Sorrow, who was wielding the Tianyan bow, had shot out so many heavenly cloud arrows in a row. In his panic, the Divine King of Azura immediately shouted into the void. Trash, this lord has even prepared a divine weapon for you. But you can't even deal with a mere god. The overlord of all heaven's angry curses immediately echoed through the void. Although he was furious, he still said, 1,000 shadows, go down and help. Yes, Lord Ruler. Upon hearing the order, the Divine King of 1,000 Shadows immediately flew down from the clouds and rushed toward Night Sorrow and the Divine King of Azura. Azura, Azura, you can't even take down a mere god. The Lord Ruler's expression is extremely ugly. Just as he was about to reach the Divine King of Azura, the Divine King of 1,000 Shadows immediately transmitted a message to the other party. What do you know? How can a sovereign divine weapon be so easy to deal with? After being despised, the Azura God King immediately replied with a gloomy expression. He was certain that if it weren't for the sovereign divine weapon Tianyun Bao, Night Sorrow wouldn't have been his match. No matter what divine weapon it is, the main point is still the person. You cover me while I find an opportunity to kill him. As the 1,000 Shadows God King swayed, his figure gradually turned blurry. This was him using his famous ultimate skill, the 1,000 Shadows divine art. The Divine King of Azura said in a very unhappy tone, "Hurry up and help me deal with this crisis. Otherwise, what's the point of you coming down?" He was still being chased by the 5 heavenly cloud arrows and was in a very sorry state. It's just a few arrows. Look at how flustered you are. The Divine King of 1,000 Shadows alternated between illusory and corporeal, giving off an extremely ethereal feeling. As he mocked the Divine King of Azura, he used the 1,000 Shadows Divine King's fist and smashed it directly at the heavenly cloud arrows. 2 of the heavenly cloud arrows were instantly blasted to the ground by his attack from the side. The Divine King of 1,000 Shadows, is it? What's the point of using these fancy ultimate techniques in front of me again? The heavenly cloud arrows chasing the Divine King of Azura were knocked down by the Divine King of 1,000 Shadows. Night Sorrow recalled them with a thought, then took out 3 more heavenly cloud arrows and shot them at the other party. Laughable ant. Can you determine where this Divine King of Azura is? Seeing Night Sorrow shoot 3 arrows at him, the Divine King of 1,000 Shadows laughed disdainfully and used the Divine 1,000 Shadows art again. His figure became completely illusory in the air. You're truly blindly confident. Night Sorrow, who had just used the Clam Dragon Eye, sneered. If others were fighting the Divine King of 1,000 Shadows, it would be best to use a supreme technique that attacked the soul, but he didn't need to. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After the 3 heavenly cloud arrows were shot, they immediately bombarded the 1,000 Shadows God King's true body. What's going on? This high god, and can actually see through this Divine King's true body? Seeing the 3 heavenly cloud arrows shooting toward him, the 1,000 Shadows God King didn't believe it at first, but then his pupils shrank as he shouted. The ant you speak of is much stronger than you imagine. The Divine King of Azura, who was resisting the 3 heavenly cloud arrows, saw the shock on the Divine King of 1,000 Shadows' face and immediately mocked him. You 2 pieces of trash are still mocking each other in this situation? Don't you feel ashamed? Are you really going to make this god deal with a high god? The ruler of all heaven's roar echoed through the air. Chapter 26:81. Lord Ruler, it's my fault. The divine king responded to the ruler of all heaven's rebuke and immediately used a secret technique unique to the Azura race to increase his strength. The Azura god king raised his physical strength to the peak he could reach and began to use the short sword divine artifact in his hand to attack the 3 heaven cloud arrows. He knew that if he couldn't deal with these arrows, it would be impossible to deal with Night's Sorrow. Ruler of all heaven, Thousand Shadow is preparing to use his ultimate technique. I hope you will fulfill your promise of a reward. On the other side, the divine king transmitted to all heaven. His body gradually solidified as he used a secret technique to increase his strength to deal with Night Sorrow's 3 sky cloud arrows. As the ruler of all heaven, I naturally wouldn't lie. If it weren't for the urgency of the situation, you wouldn't have been given this task, the ruler of all heaven replied disdainfully. For this matter, him bringing the Thousand Shadows God King here could be considered a coincidence. I, Thousand Shadow, was the one who measured the stature of a gentleman with my own yardstick. I hope the ruler of all heaven won't take offense. The divine king replied, and then entered a state of desperation. While the divine king and Thousand Shadow divine king were using their full strength to deal with the sky cloud arrows, Thousand Shadow recovered a pill. Night Sorrow swallowed a pill to recover his vitality. After recovering, he knocked an arrow on his bow again and shot an arrow at Thousand Shadows God King. Without the help of Shao Tianxian, who was an artifact spirit, every arrow he fired consumed an enormous amount of energy. The average person wouldn't be able to bear it. BZZ. When the arrow was shot, a buzzing sound was heard in the void. The sky cloud arrow shot toward the Thousand Shadows God Monarch's Dantian with an earth-shaking momentum. It easily broke through the defenses of his divine domain. Damn it, what kind of god is this? He can continuously fire arrows with the aura of a ruler. If I had known he would be so difficult to deal with, I wouldn't have gotten involved in this mess. Originally, the divine king of Thousand Shadows was already in a terrible fix. Because the heavenly cloud arrow was so powerful, he had to go all out just to completely suppress it. Now that another arrow was coming, it was even more powerful than the previous 3 arrows. He immediately became flustered. I'll kill you while you're sick. The Thousand Shadows Divine King's art of the Thousand Shadows Divine King was completely useless against Night Sorrow. It could be said that it was severely countered. Relatively speaking, he was less of a threat than the Divine King of Azura. Seeing that the Divine King of Thousand Shadows was flustered, Night Sorrow used the heavenly Samsara halberd and unleashed the forbidden reincarnation spear. Just as the Divine King of the Thousand Shadows was preparing to dodge, Night Sorrow instantly used the virtuous dragon-locking formation, temporarily trapping it within. Then, all the attacks, including the arrows, bombarded the sealed space. In the face of the 4 heavenly cloud arrows and the heavenly Samsara halberd, even the Divine King of Thousand Shadows found it difficult to endure. After being struck, he screamed miserably, "Trash! Thousand Shadows! Are you really this kind of divine king?" The all-heaven ruler coldly snorted as he watched the divine king of Thousand Shadows being beaten up miserably by Night Sorrow. All-heaven ruler, this god's methods are extremely strange. I, Thousand Shadows, am unable to deal with him. Farewell. The extremely miserable Thousand Shadows God King replied unhappily after being reprimanded. Then, he used a secret technique to flee into the distance. Could it be that this divine king of Thousand Shadows isn't one of the all-heaven ruler's men? Seeing the divine king of Thousand Shadows flee, Night Sorrow didn't give chase. Instead, he locked his gaze on the divine king of Azura. At this moment, the divine king of Azura had completely suppressed the 3 heavenly cloud arrows. Although the heavenly cloud arrows had been strengthened by the sovereign stone, they weren't truly at the sovereign level. After being suppressed, they gradually lost their luster and terrifying offensive power. Your arrows aren't that great after all. Now that they aren't much of a threat to me, let's see what other tricks you have. After finding a way to deal with the heavenly cloud arrows, the divine king of Azura laughed sinisterly and sent an Azura palm at Night Sorrow. It seems like I can use my strength to resist this palm. Facing the true divine king of Azura's attack, Night Sorrow pondered for a moment and decided not to use the Tianyan Bow. Instead, he condensed his divine Yuan energy and sent out a heaven-cleaving, earth-splitting palm. Ha ha! Reckless ant. If you don't use the sovereign artifact, you're nothing. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't use the Tianyan Bow and sent out a palm to meet his attack head-on, the divine king of Azura laughed sinisterly. Although I'm nothing, you're definitely the weakest among the divine king. If you don't use the sovereign artifact, you're nothing. Don't be so smug. Take this properly. It was rare that the divine king of Azura didn't use the half-step sovereign artifact in his hand. Night Sorrow confidently chose to meet his attack head-on. Since ancient times, no divine lord has ever killed the divine king of the divine world. You, a high god, want to stir up waves in front of me? How naive. Facing Night Sorrow, the divine king of Azura was extremely confident. His palm smashed down heavily at Night Sorrow's position. Just because something hasn't happened doesn't mean I can't do it. Night Sorrow sent out a heaven-cleaving, earth-splitting palm to meet the attack. Husband, be careful. After all, the other party is the divine king. Sikong Chiyu, who knew that she shouldn't speak to affect Night Sorrow, shouted worriedly from the clear sky pagoda. Yang Lei, Lin Piaomiao, and the others beside her were also frowning. As for Jing Yun, who had just married into the family, she was even more worried. After all, a high god fighting the divine king sounded like a fantasy story. However, Night Sorrow was doing it for real. What a joke. Die. The divine king of Azura, who was in the void, felt that the high god before him was simply courting death when he met Night Sorrow's palm. He had a sovereign artifact, but he didn't make good use of it. Instead, he chose to meet the attack head-on. This was simply throwing an egg at a rock. Boom! However, after the two of them met, something happened that surprised the divine king of Azura. Night Sorrow, a mere high god, hadn't been killed immediately. He hadn't even suffered a single loss. On the contrary, he had been forced back hundreds of miles. How is this possible? Is he really a high god? As a divine king of Azura, he had actually suffered a loss in the process of meeting a high god. The divine king of Azura couldn't accept this at all. Scum, back down. I, the divine king of Azura, will personally take action. Seeing that the divine king of Azura couldn't do anything to Night Sorrow in a direct confrontation, the divine king of Azura, who was hiding in the void, couldn't take it anymore and slowly revealed himself. He was only a little more than 3 feet tall and looked like a child. However, his face was a little ugly. After revealing himself, the divine king of Azura looked coldly at Night Sorrow. Ant, hand over the sovereign artifact in your hands. Otherwise, no one in this world can save you. If you want my sovereign artifact, come and get it yourself. The divine king of Azura didn't use his divine domain to suppress him. Night Sorrow replied. Even in the face of a divine king, he didn't want to take a step back. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because you can fight the divine king? I can kill you with a single finger. Chapter 2682. There is no question that the divine king was acting shamelessly against a god. All heaven was a god, yet he had actually attacked Night Sorrow. That was utterly shameless. Although Night Sorrow was strong enough to fight against the divine king, he had no way of resisting a god's attack. In fact, after all heaven released his divine domain, Night Sorrow couldn't even move. Even so, he didn't panic in the slightest. Xiao Tianxian transmitted, "Don't be afraid. Given all heaven's strength, he won't be able to act arrogantly." I understand, Sect Master. Xiao Tianxian, who had disappeared for some time, reappeared and returned to Tianyun Bao's side to help Night Sorrow resist All Heaven's divine domain. This made Night Sorrow feel much more relaxed. As soon as he finished speaking, a blurry figure with a blurry face appeared in the void and blasted a punch at Luo Tian. "Who goes there? How dare you ambush my All-Heaven?" The All-Heaven God, who had been pointing a finger at Night Sorrow to kill him, suddenly realized that someone was attacking him. He immediately retracted his attack and met the fist in the void. "I don't need to ambush you, All-Heaven." The figure in the void punched out, attracting the attention of everyone in the world. "You're He Gemin Tianai." Luo Tian, who had thrown out a punch in preparation to fight back, quickly recognized the newcomer and cried out in alarm. Although All-Heaven was a god, he wasn't a match for the strongest person in the god realm, He Gemin Tianai. With a bang, he was sent flying. His entire fist was shattered, making him look extremely miserable. "Since you're still useful to the god realm, Scram, if you try to steal anything from Night Sorrow again, Tianai, will uproot your All-Heaven God manner." He Gemin Tianai, who defeated All-Heaven with a single punch, coldly berated him. "From today onwards, if a ruler attacks Night Sorrow, Tianai, will immediately take action." After saying this, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Night Sorrow, I'm already aware of your decision to withdraw from the Tianyan school. I'll give you a piece of land, and I hope that you can establish your own divine territory." "Night Sorrow, you don't have to be so courteous. Tianai is not an outsider." Noticing that Night Sorrow didn't respond, Xiao Tianxian and Tianyun Bao immediately transmitted his voice. "Thank you, He Gemin Tianai." Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately thanked him. After leaving the Tianyan school, he really didn't know where to go. If he could get a piece of land and manage it well, then the entire Night Moon Empire would have a place in the realm of the gods. "You're welcome. You and I both came from the lower realm, and we both joined Tianyan school, and we both left. This is also a type of fate." He Gemin Tianai chuckled. "If you weren't so outstanding, I would have taken you under my wing." He Gemin Tianai, you flatter me. Night Sorrow cupped his hands. "I'm not flattering you. I can't praise you too much. I believe that one day you'll be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with me, and perhaps even go further." He Gemin Tianai said casually, then turned to the sky and said domineeringly, "From today onwards, anyone who dares to plot against the Tianyun Bao will become my mortal enemy." A few of the figures hiding in the sky immediately chose to flee after hearing He Gemin Tianya's words. They knew that there was no point in hiding in front of the most powerful person in the realm of the gods. "Many thanks for your care, He Gemin Tianai." He Gemin Tianai didn't even glance at the Tianyan Bao. Instead, he issued a warning to the others. Night Sorrow was extremely grateful for this. "You're welcome. Now that this matter has come to an end, let's find a place to have a few drinks." He Gemin Tianai looked at Night Sorrow. "All right, He Gemin." Night Sorrow nodded. He understood that He Gemin Tianai wanted to catch up with Xiao Tianxian. He had his wives prepare a banquet in a bamboo forest at the foot of Tianyan School. "In the future, there's no need to call me He Gemin." After taking a seat, He Gemin Tianai said casually. Clearly, he didn't treat Yishan as a junior. "All right," Night Sorrow replied politely, but at the same time, he felt a bit awkward. After all, he couldn't possibly call him He Gemin Tianai, could he? Calling him He Gemin Tianai would seem a bit distant. "Haha, Night Sorrow, there's no need to be so polite. We're all on the same side." At this moment, Xiao Tianxian emerged from the Tianyan Bao once more. After saying a few words, he sat down and began to chat with Tianai. The two of them chatted for a long time, but what puzzled Night Sorrow was that Xiao Tianxian hadn't mentioned anything about the Eternal Sovereign World. Thus, he sent a message to Xiao Tianxian. "Sect Master, why didn't you mention the Eternal Sovereign World to He Gemin Tianai? Because telling him would only cause him more trouble. It's better not to." Xiao Tianxian sighed. "The only person who can save the God Realm is you, Night Sorrow." "Night Sorrow understands." Night Sorrow replied, feeling as if a heavy burden had been placed on his shoulders. Even He Gemin Tianai couldn't do anything about it. Now, he had to deal with it himself. Most people wouldn't be able to shoulder this burden. Night Sorrow, my artifact spirit body is about to disappear. If you need anything in the future, feel free to ask Tianai. After sending Night Sorrow a message, Xiao Tianxian spoke up. Right? Night Sorrow, there's no need for you to stand on ceremony with me. Upon hearing Xiao Tianxuan's words, Hejim and Tianai smiled and nodded. Haha, having the number one person in the God realm as my backer is a wonderful feeling. Night Sorrow chuckled. In truth, given his personality, he wasn't the type to ask for reinforcements for no reason. He suddenly recalled the matter of Zhang Ye's cannon and began to explain it to Hejim and Tianai. Hejim and Tianai said, any clan that grows stronger will encounter all sorts of problems. Generally speaking, when clansmen fight with others, as long as they aren't suppressed by someone much stronger than them, I won't interfere. This is a rule of the Zhenyi clan. The matter between you and Jin Yedian is the karma between you two. Night Sorrow understands. Hejim and Tianya's words meant that he didn't take this matter to heart. Night Sorrow raised his cup. This cup of wine is to thank Hejim and Tianai for bestowing this land upon me. Haha, my piece of land is relatively barren. Furthermore, the sect leader asked for it for you. If you want to thank someone, thank the sect master. Hejim and Tianai chuckled, then continued. Night Sorrow, although I've bestowed this land upon you, I won't guard it for you forever. Do you understand what this means? Please speak frankly, Hejim and Tianai. After expressing his thanks to Xiao Tianxian, Night Sorrow looked towards Hejim and Tianai. Chapter 2683. So that's how it is. Although Hejim and Tianai didn't go into too much detail, Night Sorrow already had a general idea. Not a single piece of land in the God realm was absolutely safe. Now that he'd received the land bestowed upon him by Hejim and Tianai, he'd definitely be attacked by others. He might even have to fight for years on end. You don't need to worry too much. No matter what happens, just go ahead and do it. If others go too far, I won't just sit by and watch. Hejim and Tianai drank several cups of wine, then said, these wines of yours really do have a unique flavor. They remind me of the lower realms. These wines were brewed by my wife using the techniques of the lower realms. If you like them, you can take some with you when you leave, Night Sorrow said, then sent a message to Aoi, telling her to prepare some good wine for him. All right, if that's the case, I won't refuse. Hejim and Tianai nodded, then looked at Xiao Tianxian. Sect Master, tell me about yourself. There's nothing to tell you about me. The future of the God realm belongs to you. Xiao Tianxian smiled, but didn't mention the eternal sovereign world. Instead, he changed the topic. Night Sorrow, what are you planning to name your territory? My title is Undying, and I cultivate the Undying mantra. Let's call it Undying Domain. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate at all. He immediately said the name he had in mind. Titled Undying? Good, very good. Undying Domain isn't a bad name either. I trust that in the near future, this name will resound throughout the entire God realm. Hejim and Tianai praised. Xiao Tianxian chuckled. If you want to make a name for yourself, you have to be a bit more ruthless. That way, others won't dare to act against you. Night Sorrow will do his best. Night Sorrow replied, then began to ask the two of them about cultivation. With two hegemons guiding him, Night Sorrow felt like his understanding of the Divine Lord realm had improved. He was already not too far away from breaking through to the Divine Lord realm. Night Sorrow, don't be in such a hurry to break through. If you stay in the great God level for too short time, it could be detrimental to your future cultivation. Knowing that Night Sorrow had just become a high god and would soon become a half-step Divine Lord, Xiao Tianxian reminded him. Don't worry, sect leader. Night Sorrow knows what to do. When it came to cultivation, Night Sorrow felt that every time he advanced, he would naturally succeed. Furthermore, his foundation was deep, so he wasn't afraid of cultivating too quickly. As the banquet drew to a close, Hejim and Tianai said, Night Sorrow, I have a suggestion. Do you want to hear it? Hejim and Tianya's teachings? Night Sorrow naturally wants to listen, Night Sorrow immediately replied. Although divine artifacts are important, they are still external objects. I have a Hegemon artifact as well, but I don't normally need to carry it on me, Hegemon Tianai said slowly. Night Sorrow understands what Hegemon Tianai means. In the future, unless it's a matter of life and death, Night Sorrow won't use Tian Yinbao again. Night Sorrow immediately understood Hegemon Tianya's intentions. He wanted him to rely less on external forces. It's good that you understand. In addition, there's one more thing. Once you break through to the Divine Lord level, you can participate in the Divine Lord Challenge I'm holding. If your results are outstanding, you can enter my divine artifact, the Sky Split Tower, and gain many benefits. Hegemon Tianai continued. As for territory, once you break through to the Divine Lord level, you can ask me for it. That'll give you some motivation. All right, Night Sorrow understands. Night Sorrow nodded. Once he broke through to the Divine Lord level, many divine kings would no longer be a threat. He understood Hegemon Tianya's intentions. At this moment, Night Sorrow suddenly thought of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda in the Endless Bone region. Puzzled, he asked Hegemon Tianai, "Do you know the name of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda?" The names of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda and the Sky Split Bone Pagoda were simply too similar. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. The Sky Split Bone Pagoda. I once had a disciple who seemed to have refined it. However, I don't know the specifics. Hegemon Tianai paused for a moment, then began to explain the Tao to Night Sorrow. Fine. Night Sorrow understands. Night Sorrow assented, then began to ask Hegemon Tianai about the Sky Split Bone Pagoda. After learning that it had 99 levels and comparing it to the 9 levels of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda, he felt that there wasn't much of a connection between the two. After the banquet concluded, Night Sorrow sent Hegemon Tianai away, then began to chat with Xiao Tianxian. Xiao Tianxian gave Night Sorrow some final instructions. Then his artifact spirit body completely disappeared from the world. Night Sorrow knew very well that this was only a temporary parting. Once they reached the eternal sovereign world, they would naturally meet again. There was nothing to be sad about. Husband, where should I go next? After leaving the Tianyan school, Sikong Chiyu asked. Hegemon Tianai had promised to give him territory, but Night Sorrow would have to become a divine lord before he could fulfill his promise. From the looks of it, Night Sorrow and the entire Night Moon Empire had once more become homeless. Let's first go to Seaside City to find Senior Tianqing. We'll rescue Annie Fei together with her. Then we'll come up with other plans. Night Sorrow said a few words to Sikong Chiyu, then flew towards Seaside City. Heh, Captain. In the future, when we have territory, we'll have things to do. Xian Jizi, who hadn't spoken for a long time, transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. With territory, the god-slaying team of the Divine World will officially begin their expedition. Night Sorrow said to Xian Jizi and the others, then continued. But for now, everyone's strength is a little weak. While I'm in the process of breaking through to the Divine Lord level, I hope everyone can quickly improve their strength in the Clear Sky Pagoda. Currently, there is a huge king-grade divine vein in the Clear Sky Pagoda, which made cultivation twice the result with half the effort. He hoped that a few divine lords would emerge from the crowd as soon as possible. Only then would they have the strength to lead the team into battle. Captain, don't worry. Seeing that you're already able to fight against the Divine King, we're all anxious in our hearts. Everyone is working harder to cultivate. Xian Jizi said with a smile. Whoever breaks through to the Divine Lord level first will be appointed as the City Lord. Night Sorrow said with a smile, then hurried on his way. As he hurried on, he pondered about how to strengthen the immortal divine realm. In the future, he would likely leave. Before that, he wanted to establish a territory for his people that no one would dare to invade. Only then would he be able to head to the eternal supreme realm with peace of mind. Husband, there seems to be a battle ahead. Night Sorrow kept thinking about this while flying. When he approached Seaside City, he discovered that there was a great battle outside the city. So Jing Yun reminded him. What's going on? Night Sorrow, who came back to his senses, looked over and discovered that Seaside City was completely surrounded by dark creatures. There were dark masses of evil creatures in all directions. With Senior Tianqing's strength, she wouldn't just stand by and watch these evil creatures wreak havoc. What's going on? Chapter 2684. After opening the sea serpent's eye to observe the dark, evil creatures outside High Bay City, Night Sorrow discovered that there were 4 different clans in the north, south, east, and west. Each of them was led by an invincible Sir God. There were at least 20 Sir Gods and countless High Gods and Feather Gods under their command. The dark creatures around High Bay City shouldn't be so powerful, Night Sorrow said as he analyzed the 4 different clans in front of him. They were the Dark Murlocs, the Soul-Devouring Beasts, the Dark Demons, and the Vampire Bats. When he had entered the Endless Bone region and Jinyuan, Sir God's cave abode, the chief-level evil creatures he encountered were either sealed or crippled invincible Sir Gods. There weren't even many ordinary Sir Gods. Now that there was such a dark mass, he couldn't understand it. I don't care. Let's enter the city and take a look. The besieged High Bay City's gates were tightly shut. If it weren't for the formation around it, the city would have been breached. Now, the surrounding areas were completely surrounded by the evil creatures. There were only a few feathered God Realm practitioners scattered on the city walls of High Bay City. Their faces were all filled with fear. Obviously, the critical situation in High Bay City made everyone tremble in fear. Night Sorrow, who was about to enter the city, took out the Samsara halberd and blasted the Inferno demon toward the vampire bat camp closest to him. The Samsara halberd, which had been upgraded to a king-level divine artifact, blasted the Inferno demon. The flames were like a burning sun. All the dark creatures that were touched by the flames were completely burned to ashes. They turned into streaks of power of merit and surged into Night Sorrow's body. An enemy sneak attack. Prepare to attack. The leader of the Vampire Bat camp, an invincible Sir God Vampire Bat, roared when it was blasted by the Inferno demon that had been shot from the sky. Night Sorrow's attack just now had caused the Vampire Bat camp to lose 2 Sir Gods. This made it furious. When the bloodthirsty bats noticed Yi Shang's figure, they immediately charged at him ferociously. They seemed to blot out the sky and cover the earth, like waves after waves of turbulent ocean waves. Most people would feel fear when faced with so many vampire bats. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, was brimming with battle intent. To him, the more dark creatures there were, the better. Facing so many vampire bats, Night Sorrow didn't wait for them to get close. He immediately used the green rock soul, Rending Roar. Now that he was a half-step divine lord, he no longer needed to use the battle's secret art of the Treastrimsa, heavens, to increase his strength. He could use the Azure Rock Soul Rending Roar. After 3 roars, the vast majority of High God and Feather God level blood-sucking bats were shattered into bits of virtue that surged into his body. Not good. Retreat. He's not someone you can make an enemy of. Seeing the countless vampire bats under his command being killed by Night Sorrow's 3 roars, the leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, immediately commanded the rest of the vampire bats to flee. It then led a dozen or so monarch-level vampire bats forward. Human cultivator, I will suck your blood dry and turn you into a dried husk. Then, I will float you outside the city gates. When Batfly was still 1,000 miles away from Night Sorrow, it bared its blood-stained fangs. When it spoke, there was a thick stench of blood around it. It was clear that it had sucked the blood of many cultivators. Beast, where did you come from? Night Sorrow didn't panic in the slightest in front of these vampire bats. He had even fought the Divine King and had the ability to fight against many of them. I come from a place that makes your heart tremble. The leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, didn't answer Yi Shan's question directly. He roared and ordered, "Suck his blood dry." After it gave the order, the many monarch-level vampire bats that were the size of a small mountain began to surround Night Sorrow. Their bloody mouths were like the entrances to a cave, deep and terrifying. You want to suck my blood dry? I'm afraid you don't have the ability. At the city gates, there were many high god and feathered god-level vampire bats. Knight Sorrow glanced at the vampire bat army and ignored them for the time being. He held the Samsara halberd in his hand and fought with the monarch-level vampire bats in front of him. At the same time that Knight Sorrow attacked, the leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, took out a strangely shaped divine artifact that looked a bit like a water chestnut from his spatial artifact. He tossed it into the air, and it shot out rings of light. Knight Sorrow immediately felt a splitting headache when he was enveloped by these light waves. It was very uncomfortable, and a sense of violence rose in his heart. What kind of technique is this? Knight Sorrow had been cultivating the power of merit all this time. His temperament had never been so violent. He was shocked. He released the power of merit and wrapped it around himself. The influence of these light waves was immediately reduced by a lot. After his mind and body became clear, Knight Sorrow continued to fight with the vampire bat army. The power of merit? This is our great enemy. Summon the masters of the other clans. We must take him down today. Batfly, the vampire bat leader, noticed the golden power of merit flowing on the surface of Knight Sorrow's body and immediately shouted. After he gave the order, a few high god-level vampire bats immediately rushed to the other clans to call for reinforcements. The dark and evil creatures had the advantage. Although there was a big commotion here, the other clans would not send people over unless they were summoned. When the vampire bats went to call for reinforcements, some cultivators guarding the city walls of High Bay City also noticed the battle in front of them. However, their strength was limited. They could not see clearly what was going on and immediately reported it to their superiors. You must take me down. How arrogant of you. Facing the vampire bat leader Batfly and other opponents, Knight Sorrow responded disdainfully. Then, he used the Samsara halberd to attack with the forbidden Samsara spear. This attack was aimed at the vampire bat leader Batfly. As the spear pierced through the void, Knight Sorrow used the hand of heaven and earth splitting. The hand of heaven and earth splitting Knight Sorrow did not target a specific target. Instead, it directly shook the void and attacked all the other high god-level vampire bats. After being shaken by Knight Sorrow's hand of heaven and earth splitting, the surrounding sky suddenly became wrinkled. Some parts of the void were completely shattered. A few high god-level vampire bats could not dodge in time and were shaken by this attack. Their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. It was very miserable. Batfly, the vampire bat leader facing the forbidden Samsara spear, was shocked. He did not expect that Knight Sorrow, who was only a high god, could release the full power of a king-level divine weapon. Batfly did not have the courage to fight against the attack of the king-level divine weapon Samsara halberd. He chose to dodge immediately. Where do you think you're going? Turn into the power of merit. Seeing that the vampire bat leader Batfly wanted to escape, Knight Sorrow, who had activated the sea serpent's eye, immediately chased after him. Damn it! What are you looking at? Stop him for me. If you can't, self-destruct. Chapter 2685. The other vampire bats that had been stunned by Knight Sorrow's move turned even redder in an instant. They seemed to have gone completely crazy as they attacked Knight Sorrow recklessly, choosing to self-destruct one after another. Self-destruct? What's the use? It's just turning into power of merit. Knight Sorrow, who had used the eye of the sea serpent to dodge the attacks, gave up on chasing the leader of the vampire bats and prepared to deal with the trouble in front of him first. These crazily self-destructing vampire monarch-level bats were indeed a little troublesome. However, with Knight Sorrow's evasion and the help of the Merit Dragon locking array, these troubles did not cause much damage and were completely absorbed one by one. Human cultivator, don't be too complacent. When the other races arrive, it will be the time of your death. Batfly, the leader of the vampire bats who had fled into the distance, saw that all the monarch gods under his command had been killed and the army he led was almost completely disintegrated. He roared unhappily. I'm afraid you won't be able to see my death. The forbidden reincarnation spear did not hit Batfly in the end. Instead, it hit the void. Seeing that the other party was still jumping, Night Sorrow immediately used the dark sky wandering dragon technique that Shao Tianxian had taught him. This was a movement technique that he had cultivated on the way here. When he used it, he was like a dragon swimming in the void, traveling millions of miles in an instant. In an instant, he caught up with Batfly, the leader of the vampire bats. How can he be so fast? Even teleportation was not as fast as Night Sorrow's current speed. Batfly, the leader of the vampire bats, was shocked. He took out a mountainous seal from his spatial device and threw it at Night Sorrow's head. This king-level mountainous seal emitted a dark yellow light. After it enveloped Night Sorrow, he immediately felt that it was difficult to move, and his speed decreased by millions of times. You want to catch up with me? You have no chance at all. When the other leaders arrive, I, Batfly, will personally suck your blood dry. Your blood is full of power of merit, so it should be very delicious. Batfly, the leader of the vampire bats, laughed maniacally when he saw that Night Sorrow's movements had been greatly affected. At this time, the divine lord powerhouses of the other three races were already rushing over. The howling sounds of breaking air proved that they weren't too far away. The more the merrier. Night Sorrow, whose speed had been greatly reduced due to the King Grade Secret Treasures restriction, simply stood where he was and did not chase after the vampire bat leader. He knew that when the reinforcements arrived, the other party would definitely rush over again. Inferno demons subduing. Glancing at the army of vampire bats outside the city gates, Night Sorrow once again used the heavenly Samsara halberd to unleash the Inferno demon slaying technique. Hundreds of millions of high celestial and feather god level bloodsucking bats were incinerated by the Inferno demon subduing flames. No, damn you. The hundreds of millions of soldiers under his command were slaughtered in an instant. The leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, let out a sharp cry. He lost control and unleashed a sonic attack at Night Sorrow. This was his race's innate talent. Night Sorrow, who was hit by this sonic attack, felt a little dazed. He felt as if he had walked into a blurry illusion. It was a magnificent palace. Within the palace, there were thousands of naked beauties. Not only were these women outstanding, but their graceful figures also made one's heart race. Husband, it's good to be here soon. Little doubt. One of the women had just opened her mouth when Night Sorrow snorted coldly and shattered the illusion in front of him. This move by the leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, was completely fatal to other high celestial cultivators. Even to most divine lords, it had a great effect of confusing them. However, Night Sorrow's heart was as still as a rock. How could he be confused by such a move? Since you're not running away, then die. Although Night Sorrow was affected by the Great Seal of the Mountains, it was not easy for him to catch up to the leader of the vampire bats. However, he threw the heavenly Samsara halberd at him. The heavenly Samsara halberd, which had already become a king-grade divine artifact and had been strengthened by the ruler's stone, was thrown with a grand aura. The leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, immediately felt an overwhelming righteous aura. Master, Master, save me. Batfly, who felt great danger, was clearly a little weak because he had just used his race's innate talent. In terms of speed, he was not as fast as the heavenly Samsara halberd. Seeing that he was about to be caught, he immediately screamed, Master? To be recognized as a master by an invincible divine lord, he must be at least the divine king. That's right, if the enemy didn't have the divine king in their camp, they wouldn't have made such a big move. Night Sorrow heard the leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, and immediately understood some things. At the same time, the experts of the other three races, the soul-devouring beasts, the dark murlocs, and the dark demons, were very close. However, just as they were about to arrive, the heavenly Samsara halberd had already killed the weakened Batfly. Dark demon, soul-devouring beast leader, wasn't one of you sealed and the other split into countless parts? Seeing the experts of the dark creatures rushing over, Knight Sorrow asked in surprise. The leader of the vampire bats, Batfly, was killed by the heavenly Samsara halberd. The Great Seal of Mountains lost control and fell into Knight Sorrow's hands, completely losing its effect. Knight Sorrow, who had asked this question, discovered that the Great Seal of Mountains had the aura of a human cultivator. He couldn't help but suspect the identity of Batfly's master. He secretly guessed that the other party might be a cultivator from the divine realm. "It's you, little brat. I, the Dark Demon, will tear you apart today." The leader of the Dark Demons was the Dark Demon statue that Knight Sorrow had strengthened and sealed. When he discovered that it was Knight Sorrow in front of him, endless dark aura immediately overflowed from his body. "Dark Demon, it's really you. Who is it that let you out? Where is the sky-reaching bone pagoda now?" After confirming that the Dark Demon in front of him was the evil statue in the dark abyss, Knight Sorrow continued to ask, wanting to obtain some useful information. "Although you are about to be killed by us, I, the Dark Demon, will not reveal any information to you. Go to hell." The Dark Demon replied with an evil voice and continued, "The two of you, this human in front of us has the power of merit protecting him. We will immediately help Master kill him and help Master obtain everything he has. All right, I also have a grudge against him." The soul-devouring beast leader, who had regained the cultivation of an invincible divine monarch, looked at Knight Sorrow with hatred in his eyes. "Since you are not saying anything, then there is no point in continuing to exist. Turn everything into power of merit for me." Facing 3 invincible divine, monarch-level, dark, evil creatures, Knight Sorrow was not afraid at all. Instead, he was very excited. His cultivation had already risen to the level of a half-step divine monarch through the rainbow, profound spirit pill. However, his power of merit was still a little lacking. Chapter 2686. The only question was whether he could use the power of merit to reach the great circle of the half-step divine Lord realm. If he could, Knight Sorrow would be able to use the power of merit to reach the divine Lord realm. From there, he could use the power of merit to drive other aspects and completely advance to become a divine lord. If he could successfully ascend to the divine sovereign realm, he'd be able to head to Sovereign Tianye's territory and participate in the divine sovereign challenge. He'd also be able to obtain the first piece of territory in the immortal divine realm from Sovereign Tianye. With this piece of land, the Night Moon Empire will be able to establish itself in the divine world. You want to turn us into power of merit? You are just an exalted god, and you can't do it. The Dark Demon clearly looked down on Yishang. His impression of Yishang was still the same as before. Although Knight Sorrow had made great progress in his cultivation, the Dark Demon still looked down on him. That's what the vampire bat thought too. Now, it has turned into power of merit. A cold smile appeared on Yishang's face. At the same time, he called back the Samsara halberd. "Do you think it's a good thing to kill the bat? Let me tell you, you are in big trouble this time. But it doesn't matter, because you will die in our hands." The Dark Demon said coldly, "Let's attack together. We'll capture him alive and bring him to Master. All right, I will destroy his cultivation first." The Dark Murloc leader, who was holding a thick battle sword, bared its fangs in response. It was the first to stab at Sorrow. The slash looked simple, but it tore through the void and pressed down on Knight Sorrow's head. It felt as though 10,000 mountains were pressing down on him. "Invincible Sir God, you are indeed capable, but to me it's just a small trick." Knight Sorrow, who was holding the Samsara halberd, raised his hand and struck with the forbidden spear. Boom! There was an explosion, and the leader of the Dark Murloc saber was shattered. What? How can this be? The Dark Murloc leader's battle blade was already infinitely close to a king-level artifact, but it was actually shattered by Knight Sorrow's attack. This made it very flabbergasted. At the same time, The dark demon and the soul-devouring beast leader immediately gained a new understanding of Night Sorrow's strength and became serious. Dark Fiend snorted coldly and said, "I didn't expect that in just a short few years of not seeing, your strength rose to such a level. And he even has a King Grey Divine artifact. So what if you have a King Grey Divine artifact? What will shock you is yet to come." Night Sorrow thought to himself, "I still have a Dominator Grey God artifact, but I don't need it to deal with you guys." As he spoke, Night Sorrow immediately used the virtuous dragon-locking formation to imprison the dark demon. At the same time, he used the taboo reincarnation spear. Although he hadn't activated the 33 Heavens secret combat technique with Night Sorrow's strength, such a move was enough to bring about a life and death crisis to the dark demons. What kind of move is this? Before the dark demon, who was trapped in a sealed space, could react, he was struck by the forbidden reincarnation spear. He was almost blasted to pieces. After disintegrating, it took a long time for him to reform. However, his strength was greatly reduced. I'm afraid that the virtuous merit god in front of us is not someone we can deal with. Everyone, attack him together and inform Master. The dark demon, who had almost been killed by Night Sorrow in one move, said with lingering fear. As soon as the dark demon finished speaking, the 30 to 40 Sir Gods who had come together immediately attacked Night Sorrow. Although Night Sorrow's strength was astonishing and could almost kill one or even a few Sir Gods in one move, it was obviously impossible for him to take the attacks of so many Sir Gods head-on. The situation immediately turned into a situation where Night Sorrow was retreating and fighting at the same time. Night Sorrow, who had the eye of the sea serpent and had learned the mysterious sky wandering dragon art, was not at a disadvantage in the battle. Night Sorrow! It's Night Sorrow. At this moment, Yun Tianyi, who had suddenly appeared in the defensive array of High Bay City, shouted loudly. To be able to fight so many Sir Gods with just the strength of a high god, Night Sorrow is indeed a rare talent. Ao Qingyun, who was standing at the front of the group, immediately praised Night Sorrow after seeing him persevere under the attacks of so many evil creatures. Hearing Ao Qingyun's unhurried praise, Yun Tianyi shouted, "Alliance Lord, what's the use of saying such things under such circumstances? Send people to help." "No, the Dark Race Army is pressing down on us. It wasn't easy for our High Bay City to activate the array from back then. If we take the risk of activating it, it might cause great suffering." Ao Qingyun replied with a gloomy expression. Night Sorrow clearly has the strength to fight. Under such circumstances, if we send out some experts, won't we have a chance of victory? Yun Tianyi's expression changed drastically after hearing Ao Qingyun's refusal. He hadn't expected such a response. "You don't understand. The Divine King is behind these dark race creatures. If we take the risk of activating the array, our High Bay City will be destroyed with a flip of the hand. I, Ao Qingyun, am not afraid of death, but I can't take responsibility for everyone here." Ao Qingyun, who had already become the city lord of High Bay City, said with a sigh, "Then think of a way to let me out. Yun Tianyi, can't bear to see my friend fight alone." Yun Tianyi roared in displeasure. Yun Tianyi could understand why Ao Qingyun would give up on Night Sorrow and protect everyone in High Bay City, but he didn't want to see Night Sorrow fight alone. "Tianyi, I can't fulfill your request." Ao Qingyun's expression was extremely gloomy. "Don't tell me your so-called protection of High Bay City is to activate the array and struggle at death's door? Now that Night Sorrow is here, we clearly have the strength to fight. Why don't we go out and give it a try? Do you think hiding in the city and surviving forever is a wonderful thing?" Yun Tianyi continued to roar in displeasure. Alliance Master, although Tianyi is a little impulsive, what he said is not without reason. Brother Night Sorrow will always perform amazingly no matter when or where. I think everyone can go out of the city and fight with him. Zhuang he also tried to persuade Ao Qingyun. Even Ao Qingyun's younger cousin, Ao Song said, "Cousin, Brother Night Sorrow has never disappointed anyone. Let's fight." "That's right. Let's fight," Yun Tianyi said with clenched fists. "Once we activate the array, there's no turning back. The enemy has the Divine King. Even Tianqing was injured by the Divine King. What do we do to fight?" Ao Yun said with gritted teeth. Everyone's desire to fight was very strong. A few days ago, Long Tianqing had been injured by the enemy's leader in order to rescue the divine, sovereign Jin Yuan from the cave abode. This proved that the enemy definitely had the Divine King in their camp. This was also the reason why he didn't dare to open the door. "Everyone, leave the city and fight with me. I, Night Sorrow, will not disappoint everyone." At that moment, Night Sorrow, who was fighting with many divine sovereigns, shouted after killing a dozen or so divine sovereigns. Although he wasn't afraid of continuing the battle, if the Divine King appeared, he probably wouldn't be able to maintain his divine essence energy. He wouldn't be able to adjust himself to his best condition and use Tianyin Bao under such a concentrated attack. "Alliance Master, open the door. Otherwise, I, Yun Tianyi, will kill myself in front of you," Yun Tianyi said with a solemn expression when he heard Night Sorrow's roar. Chapter 2687. Sky-Piercing Bone Pagoda. Night Sorrow, Jing Yun, and the others in the clear sky pagoda looked at the 9-story bone pagoda in the sky and immediately felt a sense of familiarity. It was the sky-piercing bone pagoda that suppressed the dark demons in the endless bone realm. The dark demons are here, and so is the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Where's Brother Mo Yuqian? Night Sorrow was first stunned when he saw the sky-piercing bone pagoda flying toward him. Then, an ominous feeling rose in his heart. At this moment, the sky-piercing bone pagoda that had once recognized him as its master was no longer under Night Sorrow's control. He couldn't sense what was inside the bone pagoda at all. "What is this?" Ao Qingyun, who had been hesitating whether to leave the city and fight, became even more hesitant when he saw the bone pagoda flying toward them. He was afraid that if he made the wrong choice, he would bring disaster to Haibei City. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to face his father in the afterlife. "Sir, this seems to be the sky-piercing bone pagoda in the endless bone realm." A feather god cultivator behind Ao Qingyun, who had entered the endless bone realm before, replied, "Sky-piercing bone pagoda? Can someone explain me what's going on? Let's observe for a while longer." Ao Qingyun's deep gaze locked onto the sky-piercing bone pagoda as he spoke. "Alliance Master, what's the point of asking? Night Sorrow is in danger. Let's go out and reinforce him immediately." Yun Tianyi was almost driven mad by the sight of Night Sorrow being surrounded by countless dark, evil creatures. No one knows what's going on with the sky-piercing bone pagoda outside. How can we risk opening the city gates? Haibei City might be massacred. Is one person's life more important, or the lives of thousands of cultivators? A trace of anger appeared on Ao Qingyun's face. In his opinion, there was no problem with his choice. Haibei City's defenses were practically impregnable. With such defenses, it wouldn't be a problem to hold out for another 1,000 years. If they could hold out for that long, the God Realm would definitely send reinforcements and exterminate all the dark, evil creatures outside. At that time, Haibei City's crisis would naturally be resolved. "Alliance Master, I'll say it again. Let me out. You have your choice. I, Yun Tianyi's choice. If you don't open the door, I'm going to do it." Yun Tianyi turned around and glanced at the surrounded Night Sorrow, as well as the sky-reaching bone pagoda that was glaring at her like a tiger watching its prey. Yun Tianyi placed her sword across her neck. To the Dark Alliance, he, who had inherited the Divine King's bloodline, was extremely important. "Tianyi, what are you doing? You have fused with the bloodline of the Divine King, and your future is limitless. Why are you being so impulsive today?" There was a hint of anger in Ao Qingyun's voice. He felt that Yun Tianyi was a little insensible. "Night Sorrow is my most important friend. I, Yun Tianyi, cannot watch him fight alone." "Yun Tianyi, whose neck was already bleeding, roared loudly. Tianni, don't do anything stupid. I can still hold on. Knight Sorrow, who was surrounded by more than 30 monarchs and had to pay attention to the sky-reaching bone pagoda, only noticed Yun Tianni's situation after Jing Yun's reminder. Knight Sorrow roared in response while feeling touched. Brother Yi, Yun Tianni, am useless. I can't open the array formation in front of me and fight alongside you. Yun Tianni roared in grief and indignation. She wanted to cut her own neck with her sword to show that she had done her best. Tianni, you don't have to do this. You and I will have a chance to fight side by side in the future. These evil spirits before us can't do anything to me. Knight Sorrow hurriedly tried to persuade her. If he saw Yun Tianni commit suicide because of him, it would leave an eternal scar in his heart. Brother Yi, Yun Tianni's hand trembled. At that moment, Elder Zhuang, he said, Alliance Master, open the array formation. Even if we die in battle, it's better than being cowards. That's right. Cousin, locking Yishang outside like this while we watch from the sidelines isn't something a normal person can do. A.O. Qingsong, who had interacted with Knight Sorrow before, also spoke in a heavy tone. Enough. A.O. Qingyun would rather bear the infamy than open the door today. A.O. Qingyun snorted coldly and rejected everyone's suggestion. Fine, I won't open it. Knight Sorrow, will turn the tide today by myself. A.O. Qingyun didn't believe in himself at all. Knight Sorrow was a little angry. If it were him, even if he had to die in battle, he wouldn't watch one person die fighting hundreds of millions of dark creatures. Knight Sorrow, your strength is not bad. I hope that you can find an opportunity to escape on your own. The crisis of Haibei City will naturally be resolved by experts in a few years. Don't throw your life away. A.O. Qingyun, who was standing on the city wall, tried to persuade Knight Sorrow when he saw the terrifying fighting spirit rising around him. You are in the territory of the heartless Divine King, waiting for experts to rescue Haibei City. That is simply a fantasy. Why don't you just hide in the city and deceive yourself? Knight Sorrow replied coldly as he used the Black Heaven Wandering Dragon art to dodge the attacks of many divine lords. His body's defensive capabilities were astonishing. Although he was hit several times, he didn't suffer any fatal injuries. He only looked a little wretched as his body was bathed in black blood. Most of it was the blood of dark creatures. If it were any other time, Knight Sorrow would definitely use the power of merit to disperse the black blood. However, facing so many opponents, he couldn't spare any extra power of merit. Heaven Mystic Technique. Feeling that activating the Tristrimsa heavenly power of merit to increase his combat strength by 10 times was not enough, Knight Sorrow immediately activated the Heaven Mystic technique he had learned along the way, increasing his strength by 13 times. Compared to 10 times, 13 times didn't seem like a huge increase, but in reality, that wasn't the case. After increasing his strength by 13 times, Knight Sorrow's strength reached a level he had never reached before. Not only did the divine essence in his body surge, but his speed also increased significantly. Ever since the sky-reaching bone pagoda appeared, it has been eyeing me covetously. Tianyin Bao should stay behind to deal with it. My strength has increased to such a level that I can use battle to fuel battle. I need to kill all the evil creatures present. The number of dark creatures outside Haibei City had already reached an uncountable number. However, the only ones that posed a threat to Knight Sorrow were the 30-odd divine lords in front of him. There was also the sky-reaching bone pagoda floating in the air. It looked a little evil, but it had been holding back all this time. As he pondered, Knight Sorrow prepared to quickly kill some dark creatures to see if he could raise his power of merit to the divine lord level. With this in mind, he used the Eye of the Sea Serpent to avoid a round of attacks from the divine lords. Knight Sorrow immediately used the heavenly Samsara halberd to attack the hundreds of millions of high deity and feather god level evil creatures. In the blink of an eye, almost half of the black creatures around Haibei City were burned into golden power of virtue by the raging flames. Countless strands of the power of good karma floated towards Yi Shan, seen like a magnificent golden firework. Bastard, you bunch of trash! How dare you let a high deity like him act so impudently? Chapter 2688. The Divine King. It's the Divine King's voice. When he heard the furious roar from the sky-piercing bone tower, Night Sorrow immediately determined that there was a God King inside. "Who are you?" Night Sorrow asked after a short breather. "I'm the first master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda. I'm also the one who severed the karma between you and the sky-reaching bone pagoda." The eerie voice came from the sky-reaching bone pagoda again. The master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda sneered. "You're smart. After the sky-reaching bone pagoda recognized you as its master, you didn't bring it with you. Otherwise, you would have become my 9th battle servant. So, the people who made the sky-reaching bone pagoda recognize you as its master have all become your battle servants?" Night Sorrow didn't mention Enchanting, but it was obvious that he was asking about him. When a master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda spoke, all the dark creatures stopped attacking. He seemed to have intimidated everyone present. While he was panting, Yishang swallowed a few recovery pills. "Ha ha ha! Don't think I don't know that you're worried about Enchanting." However, the master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda seemed to know what Night Sorrow was thinking. He summoned, "Enchanting, come out. The rest of you, come out too." After the master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda spoke, 9 puppets appeared in the void one after another. The confused Enchanting was one of them. "Brother!" Night Sorrow immediately shouted when he saw the unconscious Enchanting. However, Enchanting, who had become a puppet god, didn't react at all. The same went for the other 8 puppets. "Bastard! Master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda, today is the day you die." Enchanting didn't respond at all. Night Sorrow was furious. "You want to kill me? Easy, just break the sky-reaching bone pagoda." "But how is that possible? You're just a high god. So what if you have a king-grade artifact?" "My sky-reaching bone pagoda has been completely restored to a king-grade artifact." The owner of the sky-reaching bone pagoda controlled the bone pagoda and abruptly sent it crashing towards the defensive formation of High Bay City. After colliding with a thin layer of defense, it immediately suffered a ferocious backlash. However, this Divine King-level attack, triggered by the formation, was completely ineffective against the sky-reaching bone pagoda. High Bay City's defensive spear array was hit, and the entire High Bay City shook. Alliance leader, the bone pagoda outside, is obviously a threat to High Bay City's defensive array. Under such circumstances, are you still not going to open the door? Yin Tianyi spoke again when she saw that High Bay City's defensive array was being shaken by the sky-reaching bone pagoda. The one controlling the sky-reaching bone pagoda is the Divine King. If we go out, we'll just be throwing our lives away. If you stay in the city, you still have a chance. Ao Qingyun's brows were frozen with coldness. "Bah, what a coward. You make it sound better than singing, but in the end, you don't have the heart to fight." Yin Tianyi, who had lost control a long time ago, scolded disdainfully. "Men, help me restrain Yin Tianyi and lock her in the dungeon of the city lord's residence." Ao Qingyun, who had been offended, had an ugly expression as she coldly ordered, "Let's see who dares to touch me." Yin Tianyi was completely infuriated by Ao Qingyun's attitude. "So what if we touch you? You've repeatedly offended the alliance leader. Do you still know your place?" A horse-faced divine lord behind Ao Qingyun mocked Yin Tianyi before using his Dharma treasure to attack and suppress her. At the same time, another divine lord beside him sealed off any possible escape routes that Yin Tianyi might have. "Why don't you trash and dark creatures have the same ability?" Seeing that Ao Qingyun had ordered people to attack her, Yin Tianyi directly activated the Divine King bloodline in her body and raised her strength to the maximum, prepared to fight to the death. At this point, she regretted her decision to follow Ao Qingyun. Seeing that Yun Tianyi was about to fight to the death, Elder Zhuang he immediately tried to persuade her. Alliance leader, please show mercy. He has repeatedly offended his superiors. If we don't punish him, we won't be able to stabilize our morale. Ao Qingyun looked coldly at Zhuang He and said, Elder Zhuang He, you are an elder. You should be aware of the current situation. Don't act on impulse like him. Alliance leader, Zhuang He is not acting on impulse. It's just that in the current situation, he attacked his own people. That's not acceptable. Zhuang He replied in a low voice. Don't tell me that I have to endure his criticism forever. Ao Qingyun's brows were completely covered in frost. She snorted coldly and said, Take Elder Zhuang He away as well. You're such an awe-inspiring alliance leader. I'll settle the score with you later. Knight Sorrow had witnessed everything that had happened on the city wall and immediately reprimanded her. You'd better survive the battle first before you talk about anything else. Ao Qingyun, who was glaring at Knight Sorrow angrily, replied indifferently. What he said makes sense. You'd better think about whether you can survive first. As soon as Ao Qingyun finished speaking, the sky-piercing bone pagoda's master, who had just demonstrated the sky-piercing bone pagoda's strength, spoke in a sinister voice. He ordered, 9 golems, all creatures of darkness, spare no expense to kill this merit and virtue high god. Understood. At his command, the 9 puppets, more than 30 god lords, and the remaining hundreds of millions of high gods and feather gods all attacked Knight Sorrow. Kiki, let's see how you survive such a powerful attack. The number of god lords under the sky-piercing bone pagoda's master had exceeded 40. The number of high gods and feather gods was uncountable. He felt that with such strength, he could completely crush Knight Sorrow. Facing the attacks of so many god lords, Knight Sorrow took out Tianyun Bao from his spatial artifact. Facing the god lords, he transformed his power of merit into arrows and shot out 3 arrows in a row. Although he didn't use the heavenly cloud arrow, the arrows formed from his power of merit were extremely lethal to the dark creatures. The 3 golden arrows traveled through the dark army as if they were unstoppable, constantly reaping the lives of dark, evil creatures and converting them into power of merit. What is this energy? The energy of a sovereign divine artifact. The 30 god lords attacking together were all suppressed by Knight Sorrow's arrows of merit. The sky-piercing bone pagoda's master immediately muttered in confusion. You're right. This is a sovereign divine artifact, one that will take your life. At this moment, Knight Sorrow took out a golden heavenly cloud arrow and shot it at the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Now that the divine king of the enemy camp had appeared and given him a chance to recover his divine yuan energy, Knight Sorrow, who had been holding back all this time, finally exploded. The moment Knight Sorrow released the heavenly cloud arrow, the world resonated with it. How can this be? You're just a high god ant. How can you use a sovereign divine artifact? This is impossible. Chapter 2689. At the same time, the owner of the sky-piercing bone pagoda summoned all 9 puppets back into the bone pagoda. He wanted them to help him withstand the impact of the sky cloud arrow. Although the sky cloud arrow was extremely fast, the 9 puppets were connected to the sky-piercing bone pagoda. With a thought from the owner of the sky-piercing bone pagoda, they appeared in the bone pagoda. What? This Knight Sorrow actually has a sovereign grade divine artifact and can unleash power on par with the Divine King? Ao Qingyun, who was standing on the city wall, was so shocked that his mouth could not close when he saw Knight Sorrow use his trump card, the sovereign grade divine artifact. Alliance Master, should we activate the array now? A god lord who had just restrained Yun Tianyi and Zhuang he asked. It's too late to leave the city now. Ao Qingyun sighed and said, Release Tianyi and Elder Zhuang He. I've said it before. Brother Yishang never disappoints. Yun Tianyi said angrily after being unsealed. From now on, I, Yun Tianyi, will never speak ill of anyone from the Dark Alliance again. I, Zhuang He will also withdraw from the Dark Alliance. Zhuang He shook his head and sighed. Due to his limited cultivation talent, he was still a high god. He had once held a high position in the Dark Alliance, but he no longer had any right to speak. Didn't you just find a new backer? Don't forget, it was I, Ao Qingyun, who saved you back then. Ao Qingyun said with a dark expression as he faced the two who chose to withdraw. When he raised his head to look at Yishan again, there was a complicated look in his eyes. At this moment, Night Sorrow's sky cloud arrow had already struck the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Although the sky-piercing bone pagoda defended with all its might, it was still shaken like a collapsed house. I thought you could unleash a sovereign great attack, but I didn't expect you to only be at the Divine King's level. Although the bone pagoda was somewhat shattered, the owner of the sky-piercing bone pagoda laughed. Then, the sky-piercing bone pagoda recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, thousands of lightning bolts appeared around him like spiderwebs. These thunderous Night Sorrow felt both familiar and unfamiliar. What was familiar was the aura, but what was unfamiliar was that these thunderbolts were obviously not at the level of a high god, but at the level of a divine king. As long as you don't destroy the entire bone pagoda, I can repair it endlessly. Die. The owner of the sky-reaching bone tower roared proudly and sent the bone tower crashing towards Night Sorrow. Husband, be careful. The sky-reaching bone pagoda, a king-class divine artifact, came crashing down. Jing Yun, who was in the clear sky pagoda, immediately warned. In fact, it wasn't just her. From the perspective of Sikong Chiyu and the others, they also felt that the sky-reaching bone pagoda was coming at them. However, they had been with Night Sorrow for a long time and were already used to this kind of situation. Don't worry, I'm fine. Facing the crushing, sky-reaching bone pagoda, Night Sorrow, whose body was constantly absorbing the power of merit, bit his finger. He continuously poured his blood onto Tianyun Bao's bow. After absorbing Night Sorrow's blood, Tianyun Bao, who had once again turned into a bone bao, rapidly grew flesh and dragon scales. Destroy. When he was attacking just now, Night Sorrow had been worrying about Mo Yuqian. However, on second thought, Mo Yuqian had already been refined into a puppet, so he didn't care anymore. He wanted to destroy the sky-reaching bone pagoda first. With a roar, Night Sorrow shot out another heavenly cloud arrow. Buzz! The resonance of heaven and earth caused by this arrow was about 3 times stronger than the previous one. Boom! The heavenly cloud arrow and the sky-reaching bone pagoda collided once more. The sky-reaching bone pagoda was like rubble that had been smashed by a heavy hammer, scattering in the void. Good. Brother Night Sorrow is indeed valiant. He's invincible. The Horn Race's patriarch, Jiao Kong, who was very worried about Night Sorrow, let out a long sigh. Without a doubt, if Night Sorrow had been defeated, his Horn Race might have been exterminated. Brother Yi, amazing. Yun Tianyi, who was watching from the city wall, praised. Then he looked at Ao Qingyun and said, a true expert will have an invincible and fearless aura. You clearly don't have that. It's none of your business. Ao Qingyun replied coldly. Also, do you really think Night Sorrow destroyed the sky-reaching bone pagoda? As Ao Qingyun spoke, the sky-reaching bone pagoda recovered at a visible speed. Kiki, I said before that you can't destroy the sky-reaching bone pagoda. After replying, the sky-reaching bone pagoda's master coldly mocked Night Sorrow. Seeing the sky-reaching bone pagoda regenerate after such a powerful attack, and its aura was no weaker than before, Yun Tianyi, who was on the city wall, clenched his fists regretfully. In the clear heaven pagoda, the Night Moon Race, the Horn Race, and Shao Tianxian Race, as well as Night Sorrow's friends, were all worried for him. They knew that the attack just now was already the strongest attack that Night Sorrow could unleash. If even his strongest attack did not completely destroy the sky-reaching bone pagoda, the consequences would be unimaginable. It's fine. It's not a hopeless situation yet. Sensing everyone's worry in the clear heaven pagoda, Night Sorrow comforted them and began to think of a strategy. If Long Tianqing lost to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda's master, he felt that it was completely understandable, because this pagoda was really difficult to deal with. At the end of the day, it's still because I'm not strong enough. If I can advance to Divine Lord, I can definitely use Tianyin Bao to unleash an even stronger attack. While pondering, Night Sorrow once again locked his gaze on Divine Lord Darkness, who was suppressed by the 3 Myriad arrows. He thought to himself that with more than 30 Divine Lords, plus countless High Gods and Feather Gods, he might be able to advance to Divine Lord Merit. Therefore, he used the Heavenly Cloud arrow again to shatter the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. Night Sorrow took out another Heavenly Cloud arrow and shot it directly at the Dark Demon who was in battle. Although the Dark Demon was an invincible Divine Lord level dark creature, facing the Divine King level Heavenly Cloud arrow, it had no ability to resist at all and was directly killed. While absorbing the power of Merit converted from the Dark Demon, Night Sorrow summoned back the Heavenly Cloud arrow and shot it at the soul-devouring beast leader. Similarly, there was no suspense at all. The soul-devouring beast leader was also directly killed by the Heavenly Cloud arrow and turned into a dazzling golden power of Merit. After continuously absorbing the power of Merit, Night Sorrow's power of Merit quickly reached peak High God level. This speed of improvement could be said to be very fast, but Night Sorrow did not feel anything strange. Not good. If this continues, all the dark creatures present will become his nourishment. It is very likely that he will break through to Divine Lord level. Because of this, seeing Night Sorrow break through one by one, continuously killing the dark creatures and absorbing the power of Merit converted from them, the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda's master said. While controlling the Bone Pagoda to crash into Night Sorrow, the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda's master coldly threatened, "If you don't surrender, I will completely destroy Mo Qianqian's divine soul. As the Divine King, don't you find it ridiculous to say such things?" Night Sorrow completely ignored the other's words and continued to attack the other Divine Lord-level dark creatures. Chapter 2690. As the number of dark creatures gradually decreased, the darkness surrounding Haibei City gradually returned to its original brightness. Even the shadows that shrouded Haibei City also disappeared. Many cultivators noticed this and began to walk up the city walls to watch the battle outside the city. However, Night Sorrow was currently shrouded in a dazzling golden light. Even those who had seen him before could not confirm his true identity. Some of the more trusting cultivators began to ask who the others were. Without a doubt, Night Sorrow had become the hero of Haibei City. City Lord A.O. Qingyun's expression darkened. After he became City Lord, he had indeed helped Haibei City activate the array set up by their predecessors. However, he had not killed a single dark creature. Hearing the cheers of the people in the city, jealousy rose in his heart. Just as A.O. Qingyun was feeling uneasy, Night Sorrow had already killed all the dark creatures outside the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. Not a single one was left. After absorbing the power of virtue of dozens of Divine Lords and countless High God and Feather God level dark creatures, his power of virtue had successfully broken through to the Divine Lord level. Although his strength had soared recently, Night Sorrow did not feel uncomfortable. After all, he had already fought against the Divine King and could calmly face a Divine Lord. However, although his power of virtue had broken through to the Divine Lord level, Night Sorrow could not be considered a true Divine Lord. His cultivation, body, and divine soul had yet to reach the Divine Lord level. He needed to cultivate to follow the power of virtue and truly advance to the Divine Lord level. As for the Divine Lord tribulation, it was not difficult for Night Sorrow. It was only a matter of time before he broke through to the Divine Lord level. Furthermore, it was very likely that he had taken the shortest time to advance from Feather God to Divine Lord in the history of the Divine Realm. I said that if you don't stop, I will kill and erase Mo Qianqian's divine soul. The owner of the sky-reaching bone pagoda was completely enraged when he saw countless of his subordinates being killed. His cold and sinister voice came from the bone pagoda, sending chills down the spines of those who heard it. Many cultivators watching from the city walls felt as if their heads were about to explode when they heard the demonic voice of the divine king level. Azure Rock's soul splitting roar. First style, 3 roars break reincarnation. Noticing the state of some of the low-level cultivators in the city, Night Sorrow immediately used 3 roars to break the cycle of reincarnation, cutting off the pressure that the owner of the sky-reaching bone pagoda brought to High Bay City. Looks like you're a merit god. No, he's a merit divine lord. He's very virtuous. The words of the sky-reaching bone pagoda's master revealed a hint of a conspiracy. No. I'm not thinking about saving people. I'm thinking about killing people. Get ready to come out of your turtle shell. The voice of the sky-split bone pagoda's master gave Night Sorrow a foreboding premonition. In addition, the other party still hadn't attacked Mo Yuqian. He was prepared to use his strongest attack once his power of virtue reached the Divine Lord realm and directly shatter the sky-split bone pagoda. Hee. You'd better be prepared to welcome the death of your friends, as well as the misery and suffering of High Bay City. The owner of the sky-reaching bone pagoda's voice grew colder and colder. At the same time, the puppet made from Mo Yuqian's soul suddenly floated out from the sky-reaching bone pagoda. It floated towards the defensive array of High Bay City. Its speed was not fast, but made people feel fearful. Not good. Everyone retreat. Seeing the puppet that looked like Mo Yuqian floating towards the defensive array of High Bay City, City Lord Qingyun immediately raised his head. The City Lord, Ao Qingyun, immediately warned loudly. He had a feeling that a great disaster was about to befall him. He guessed that the puppet in front of him should have a very lethal attack power. Brother. At this moment, Night Sorrow sensed that it was indeed Mo Yuqian's soul. He, who was originally prepared to use his strongest attack on the sky-split bone pagoda, immediately hesitated. At this moment, the turbid eyes of the puppet that looked like Mo Yuqian suddenly became clear. It transmitted its voice to Night Sorrow. Brother Night Sorrow, as long as this puppet body of mine collides with the defensive array, it will immediately explode. Its power is 100 times stronger than an ordinary king grade talisman. If you have the ability, immediately destroy the sky-split bone pagoda. Otherwise, quickly escape. Brother, I will completely destroy this sky-split bone pagoda. Hearing Mo Yuqian's transmission, Night Sorrow's heart trembled. While he was worried, he spat a mouthful of heart blood on Tianyun Bao and infused the power of virtue into the 3 sky cloud arrows. They suddenly shot toward the sky-split bone pagoda. The 3 sky cloud arrows were shot out one after another at an astonishing speed. Even a divine lord would not be able to see them clearly with the naked eye. They were all aimed at a single point. Bang! 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 Just as Mo Yuqian's puppet was about to reach the defensive array of High Bay City, the 3 sky cloud arrows bombarded the sky-split bone pagoda. At the same time that the sky-split bone pagoda's body was shattered, the sky cloud arrows infused with the power of virtue rampaged through the sky-split bone pagoda. How can this be? The sky-split bone pagoda's owner's roar was quickly heard. Not long after his voice fell, a large amount of black gas emerged from the sky-split bone pagoda. Under the attack of the sky cloud arrows, the sky-split bone pagoda was completely shattered and turned into dust. Mo Yuqian, who was originally floating towards High Bay City, immediately stopped. The other 8 divine lords, who had been turned into puppets by the sky-split bone pagoda's owner, rushed out of the sky-split bone pagoda, their turbid eyes clearing up. Night Sorrow, did you save us? After waking up, these Sir Gods observed their surroundings and immediately understood what was going on. Among them, except for the last divine lord, the rest had seen Night Sorrow challenge the sky-split bone pagoda and recognized him. At this time, Mo Yuqian transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. That black evil gas is the owner of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda. Be careful. So you, the Divine King, are just a ball of evil gas. Seeing the owner of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda turn into a ball of black gas and fly into the distance, preparing to escape. Night Sorrow swallowed a recovery pill, took out a sky cloud arrow, knocked an arrow, and shot towards the black gas. Do you think I'm so easy to deal with? Just as Night Sorrow shot the sky cloud arrow at the ball of black gas, a blurry figure that looked like water ripples suddenly appeared behind Yishang. After it appeared, it turned into a ball of evil black gas and directly entered Yishang's body. Although you can rely on external forces to fight with the Divine King, your Divine Soul is still in the Divine Soul. But your Divine Soul is far from the Divine King's level, right? Prepare to bid farewell to this world. I will take your place. A cold and evil voice sounded in Night Sorrow's mind. Are you trying to strengthen my Divine Soul and help it reach the Divine Lord level? Feeling the pain of his Divine Soul being devoured, Night Sorrow, who had shot the sky cloud arrow with all his might, focused his mind to resist the evil gas that had possessed his body. Chapter 2691. You think too much. I can't be devoured. What awaits you is tragedy. The cold voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. It sounded in Night Sorrow's mind like the explosion of a king-level divine talisman. Even though Night Sorrow's Divine Soul had been strengthened to the level of the Divine King, he still felt like his Divine Soul was being torn apart. Brother Night Sorrow, be careful. Against it, you must protect your heart. And Mo Yuqian knew that his voice would distract Night Sorrow, but he still reminded him, you might have to go through a long process, maybe 1,000 years, or even a few reincarnations. But reality only lasts for a moment. Don't be afraid of the passage of time. Okay, brother, your reminder is very important. Night Sorrow replied. He felt that Mo Yuqian's reminder was very useful. If he hadn't said that, he would have been worried that he would miss the chance to save Wu Ling concubine if he fought against the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda for too long. Brother Night Sorrow, don't underestimate it. It's very scary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fallen for it. Mo Yuqian continued to remind him. In the end, he realized that his emotions had been controlled by the owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda during the battle. Later on, his decisions had been influenced by the other party. Brother, don't worry. Night Sorrow has never lost in a test of willpower. Night Sorrow replied Mo Yuqian and wholeheartedly fought against the owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda. Strictly speaking, the other party was just a ball of evil energy. Never lost? That's because you haven't met me. The owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda, the evil voice, exploded in Night Sorrow's mind. Well, why do you have to call yourself me? You're just a ball of waste. Night Sorrow replied as he seriously fought against the owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda. There was no fixed pattern in a battle of divine souls. It wasn't just a battle of divine souls. It was also a battle of willpower. The owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda was a ball of evil energy. It had no emotions and was at the level of the Divine King. It was basically invulnerable. Otherwise, Mo Yuqian and the other unrivaled divine lords wouldn't have fallen for it. Waste gas. Very soon, you will become a mindless puppet, even worse than the waste gas. I have yet to refine the merit divine lord's body. The master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda said evilly as he launched a powerful attack on Night Sorrow's divine soul. Yishang's soul felt like smoke being blown by the wind after being attacked by an outsider. He felt as though his soul was drifting. You want to turn me, Night Sorrow, into a puppet? Such a person doesn't exist. Night Sorrow, who felt his divine soul becoming more and more violent, began to use all kinds of methods to increase the strength of his divine soul to fight against it. In the beginning, Night Sorrow felt like he was holding his breath. He felt like he wouldn't be able to hold on for long, but after a while, he gradually got used to the rhythm. Furthermore, under the influence of the power of merit, Night Sorrow's divine soul gradually became stronger, rising towards the level of a divine lord. This increase in strength put a great deal of pressure on the master of the Sky-Split Bone Pagoda. When Yishang's divine soul was about to reach the divine lord realm, the master of the Sky-Split Bone Pagoda launched a fierce attack on Yishang's divine sea. You overestimate yourself. Not much time had passed in the outside world, but Night Sorrow felt like he had been fighting against the master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda for 300,000 years. After 300,000 years of fighting, the strength of his divine soul seemed to have cultivated for 300,000 years. Although he hadn't officially advanced to the level of a divine lord, he wasn't inferior to an ordinary divine king. Night Sorrow, who had been shrinking his defenses, completely released his divine soul at this moment to fight against the master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Brother Night Sorrow, nothing will happen, right? After all, the opponent is at the level of a divine king. Jiao Kong asked worriedly in the clear sky pagoda as Night Sorrow's divine soul fought a decisive battle with the master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda. My husband has never disappointed anyone. Nothing will happen to him. He will be the master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Sikong Chiyu replied confidently after hearing Jiao Kong's words. She had witnessed everything that Night Sorrow had gone through and had absolute confidence in him. Lin Piaomiao recalled the scene of Night Sorrow's battle outside Tianwang City and said with certainty, "My husband was born to turn the tide. This test is nothing to him." "All right, I can rest assured then," Jiao Kong said with lingering fear. Recently, Night Sorrow had been fighting against people a higher level than him, and had even faced the threat of a divine lord. Jiao Kong could be said to be on tenterhooks. The person chosen by the patriarch was really not a simple existence. On the other side, for Haibei City, the moment Night Sorrow destroyed the sky-piercing bone pagoda, the crisis in the outer city had been averted. Most of the cultivators in Haibei City cheered as they looked at the gradually brightening blue sky outside the city. At this moment, Yin Tianyi shouted. Many people knew that the person who had saved them was Night Sorrow and started shouting Night Sorrow's name. "Everyone, please keep quiet. Currently, Brother Night Sorrow is still fighting." The cheers were a little loud. Mo Chanqian, who was in the form of a puppet, reminded everyone. Hearing this, the cheering crowd in the city gradually calmed down. They locked their gazes on Night Sorrow, who was surrounded by a golden aura and a black aura, and silently prayed for him. "Don't worry, you won't be able to affect Night Sorrow. If I'm not wrong, Night Sorrow has completely taken the initiative." At this moment, Long Tianqing suddenly flew over from afar. She used the power of her soul to check on Yi Shang's condition, and then she said something to everyone. "Phew, it's good that Brother Night Sorrow is fine." Mo Chanqian heaved a long sigh of relief when he heard Long Tianqing's words. However, Long Tianqing looked at Mo Yuqian with a serious expression. "Your condition, they were old acquaintances who had known each other for many years. You're right, my divine soul will be destroyed. Not only me, but the other 8 invincible divine lords will also be destroyed after the Bone Pagoda's master dies. We're now connected to the Bone Pagoda's master," Mo Chanqian said solemnly. "In other words, only one of you and Night Sorrow can survive. Am I right?" Long Tianqing's voice was trembling. She had used all her strength to protect divine Lord Jin Yuan from the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda's master. Now, she was powerless to prevent a tragedy from happening. "I hope that Brother Night Sorrow survives. It's a blessing for the realm of the gods that he has the initiative," Mo Chanqian said with emotion. "That's right. Rather than living like this, we might as well be completely destroyed." Another invincible divine lord controlled by the sky-piercing bone pagoda also said. To these geniuses, what had happened in the past few years was like a nightmare. Let's see if Night Sorrow can completely kill the other party. Chapter 2692. In the end, The golden light and the black light formed two dragons that coiled around Knight Sorrow's body and fought against each other. When the golden dragon was first formed, it was not as thick as the black dragon. However, as time passed, it gradually grew stronger and started to gain the upper hand. Knight Sorrow, who was fighting against the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda, was in a similar situation. He went from being passive at the start to gaining the upper hand. Impossible. How is this possible? I am the Divine King. How can I lose to a high god like you? The owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda said in disbelief when Knight Sorrow launched his final attack. You are wrong. In terms of divine soul, I am already a divine lord. As he resisted, Knight Sorrow's divine soul reached the level of a lower divine lord. After his divine soul reached the level of a divine lord, the owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda was completely suppressed. Very quickly, Knight Sorrow, who had gained the upper hand in the fight, successfully annihilated his opponent. After completely killing the owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda, Knight Sorrow found a problem. After the owner's divine soul was killed, another deity C formed beside his deity C. This deity Ocean was in a completely unconscious state. Is it really an unconscious deity C or a trap left by the owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda? Knight Sorrow used his divine soul to sense for a while, but did not find the owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda. He immediately used his divine soul to enter the deity C to check. When Knight Sorrow's divine soul entered the deity C, he found that he had gained control of the deity C. It was as if the deity C had recognized him as its owner. What's going on? Will I have two deity Cs in the future? Knight Sorrow felt the state of his divine soul and wondered. After testing it, he found that he indeed had two deity Cs. Each of them could use the power of a divine soul. However, the new one was slightly weaker than the original. The two divine souls could use the power of the divine soul. They could merge together or do two things at the same time. It was very magical. This should be a good thing, right? As Knight Sorrow was thinking, he suddenly had a thought. He found that the new deity C's divine soul could control Immerse and the other invincible divine lords. Brother, Knight Sorrow used this divine soul to try to communicate with Immerse. Brother Knight Sorrow, you are fine? Immerse asked doubtfully as he felt the voice in the depths of his soul. He felt that this was a bit strange. In the past, it was always the master of the Bone Pagoda who used this method to communicate with him. I'm fine. The master of the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda should have been completely destroyed. Knight Sorrow Deity C, he continued. After he disappeared, Deity C, Deity CC, Deity C. Deity CC, Deity. It seems that even if it is destroyed, the 9 of us won't be completely destroyed. God, deity, God, deity, God, deity of the hand, deity, pagoda, deity, soul, deity of the pagoda. God got it. Bone. After listening to Immerse's story, Knight Sorrow said, Brother, don't worry. I will let you and the others regain your freedom. Brother Knight Sorrow, thank you. I didn't expect that Immerse, would regain my freedom in my lifetime, Immerse said with some emotion. After the Heavenly Bone Pagoda's master advanced to the Divine King level, he completely erupted. Not only did he disperse Knight Sorrow's imprint, he also controlled an invincible divine monarch and released all the evil creatures around High Bay City. He also controlled the 9 invincible divine monarchs to launch a tide-like attack on High Bay City. Now that Knight Sorrow had destroyed him, not only did he save High Bay City, he also saved the 9 invincible divine monarchs. Brother, and the others, please wait a moment. I will make some arrangements and find a way to restore your freedom. Knight Sorrow Deity C told Immerse and the other 8 invincible divine monarchs before coming back to his senses. He said to his family in the clear sky pagoda, "The heavenly bone pagoda's master has been destroyed by me. This storm is over." "Good, little 13, you really didn't disappoint us." Hearing Night Sorrow's familiar voice, Yang Lei, who was originally very nervous, immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Sikong Chuyu, Lin Piaomiao, and the others, who were very confident in Night Sorrow, also heaved a sigh of relief. The others in the clear sky pagoda were also the same. After all, Night Sorrow had become their backbone now. Night Sorrow's grandfather, Yiling Huan, was sure that he had overcome the crisis. He coughed and said, "Now that the crisis is over, everyone should seize the time to cultivate, so that we don't have to hide here the next time we encounter a battle." Yes, grandfather's words make sense. Jing Yun will work hard to become stronger. Among the people present, Jing Yun, as a divine monarch, was very strong. As long as she improved a little more, she would be able to fight side by side with Night Sorrow. "I won't fall behind either." Lin Piaomiao, who had the sovereign bloodline in her body, also did not want to fall behind. She realized that after the sovereign bloodline appeared, her cultivation speed was doubled with half the effort. Her strength increased an extremely fast speed. "Good. All you are good. But you are all a female army. The men of the Night Moon Empire have to work hard," Yiling Huan said with a smile. These words made some of the people present think of Yi Xiaoluo, Yi Lingxi, and Yi Xiaoke, who had gone out to train. Now, all of them had gone out to train, and there was no news of them. I wonder how the three children are doing now. Thinking of Yi Xiaoluo and the others, Dechira could not help but sigh worriedly. Their talents are so outstanding. No matter where they are now, they should be able to develop well. Shueshi replied and said, "I believe that when our immortal divine territory is established, they will rush back. Yes, I believe that the three of them will come back strong." Lin Piaomiao thought of her son, Yi Xiaoke. Although she was worried, she was similarly confident, because not only was he Night Sorrow's son, but he also might have inherited his sovereign bloodline. In terms of talent, he should be ranked in the top in the entire divine realm. While the women were lamenting, Night Sorrow was currently conversing with Long Tianqing, inquiring about her injuries. He also told her what sect master Xiao Tianxian said before. Hearing that there was news of the heavenly Luan Myriad transformations pill, Long Tianqing was very happy and said, "Now, Big Brother Yuan's condition is already stable. As long as we get the heavenly Luan Myriad transformations pill, he can completely recover. Next, you let Brother Qian and the rest regain their freedom first." "All right, I have the same intention." When Night Sorrow heard this, he did not hesitate and controlled the second divine sea to release Imo Yoqian's divine soul control. Chapter 2693. Completely recover? Not only will we regain our freedom, but we will also have the chance to completely recover, become a cultivator with flesh and blood. One of the puppet-turned invincible divine lords exclaimed in disbelief when he heard Night Sorrow's words. Today's events had given him hope of being reborn after countless years of despair. This was something he had never dared to dream of. If we can really recover, I suggest that we all work for Brother Night Sorrow. This is the only way we can repay him. Imo Qianqian, who was also very excited, said he now felt that helping Night Sorrow in the Endless Bone realm was the best decision he had ever made in his life. It was the exact opposite of nurturing Wuxin. Night Sorrow hurriedly shook his head when he heard Imo Qianqian's words. "Brother, you're too polite. If not for your help in the Endless Bone realm, I wouldn't have been able to obtain the Genesis Essence to strengthen my body. Without the Genesis Essence, I would have already died in battle in the Endless Bone realm. How could I be where I am today? Little Brother Night Sorrow, there's no need to be so polite. Let alone these small favors. Even if it's a bigger favor, what you've done today is more than enough to repay. The Heavenly 1000 Transformations pill will definitely allow you to continue taking risks. That will be a new favor. Enchanting said politely. He felt that Night Sorrow had already done him a great favor by shattering the heaven-reaching bone tower and saving him. If he accepted the heavenly 1,000 transformations pill but did nothing, he wouldn't be able to overcome the barrier in his heart. That's right, Brother Night Sorrow, there's no need to be so polite. Whether or not you have the heavenly 1,000 transformations pill, I, Xiong Nanyue, will follow your lead in the future. Xiong Nanyue, the tallest puppet among the 9 divine lords, said in a deep voice. After he spoke, the remaining 7 divine lords also spoke one after another, saying that they would follow Night Sorrow no matter what. When they had been controlled by the master of the heaven-reaching bone tower, their lives had been worse than death. Night Sorrow had saved them today, which was akin to giving them a new lease of life. Even the coldest person would show some gratitude. If no one has a place to go, Night Sorrow will establish the immortal divine domain after breaking through to the divine lord realm. If you have family or sect, I suggest you choose to return. Looking at the few invincible Sir Gods who had been turned into puppets, Night Sorrow said. These words were equivalent to giving them true freedom, allowing them to choose their future path according to their wishes. When the few invincible Sir Gods present heard Night Sorrow's words, they felt very comfortable. Seeing that the matter had come to an end, Long Tianqing asked, Night Sorrow, when can we head to the secret realm? At the very least, I'll have to wait until I'm a divine sovereign. I heard that it was the sovereign's Tao, right temple. Although the sovereign's essence has been taken away, there are still other resources there. I'm afraid that it will cause a large-scale struggle. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Long Tianqing. He didn't want the matter of 9 Heaven Divine Palace to be exposed. If the Divine King or even the sovereigns came to fight for it, things would get troublesome. After all, Xiao Tianxian had only told this to him. That makes sense. We'll head there after you've stabilized your strength. Long Tianqing nodded and transmitted her voice. I was too anxious. From the looks of it, with your strength, you can definitely defeat Ling Yan. Shall I bring you to find him? All right, Senior Tianqing. Night Sorrow has the same intention. Night Sorrow and Long Tianqing discussed this matter for a while before looking at Mo Yuqian and the others. If you don't have a place to stay for the time being, you can enter my spatial artifact to cultivate. After Night Sorrow spoke, Mo Yuqian and the others, who had no choice, entered the Clear Sky Pagoda. This spatial artifact is incredible. The god spiritual energy is so strong, and the spatial acceleration is at least 10 times faster. Mo Yuqian was shocked to discover that Night Sorrow's Clear Sky Pagoda was comparable to the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda. After all, Night Sorrow was just an ordinary feather god a few years ago. It's indeed incredible. Even the Divine King, who has accumulated a lot of experience, might not have such a spatial artifact. Long Tianqing, who had entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to observe, was an array formation expert. She also praised. Haha, you're too kind. Night Sorrow was just lucky. Night Sorrow introduced everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda before coming to the area where the Divine King of the Golden Crow tribe, Jinya, was in seclusion. Lord Night Sorrow, you're here. When he saw Yishang appear, Jinya, who had been meditating and recovering from his injuries, immediately stood up and spoke respectfully. No need to be so polite. Just call me Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow replied and asked, Do you know why I didn't summon you when I was fighting against the dark creatures? This should be because Lord Night Sorrow had absolute confidence in defeating the other party. Jinya asked doubtfully. He didn't omit the word Lord. In fact, I didn't have absolute confidence in winning. But if you took action, I wouldn't be able to obtain a lot of power of virtue. I wouldn't be able to advance my power of virtue to the Divine Lord level. I wouldn't be able to break through to the Divine Lord level in other aspects. This can be considered as seeking fortune in danger. Night Sorrow explained. He couldn't be bothered to argue about how to address Jinya. Since Jinya called him that so easily, he didn't fuss about it. Jinya looked at Yishang and asked, Lord Yishang, is something the matter for you to come over now? Next, I'll be following Senior Long Tianqing to find an enemy and fight to the death with him. Now that Senior Long Tianqing is injured, I need to use the time on the road to cultivate and prepare to advance my cultivation to the Divine Lord level. So I need to trouble you to protect everyone's safety on the road. Knight Sorrow said slowly. Jinya smiled and said, Isn't this my duty after leaving the Golden Crow ancient realm? All right, then I'll have to trouble Mr. Jinya. Knight Sorrow said politely when he saw Jinya agree. It's no trouble, no trouble. It's my honor to be able to do something for Knight Sorrow and form good karma. Jinya was extremely shocked when he thought that Knight Sorrow could defeat the Divine King. After all, there wasn't even an example of a Divine Lord defeating the Divine King in the Divine Realm. Moreover, Knight Sorrow's cultivation speed also broke his understanding. Jinya felt that one day, Knight Sorrow might be strong enough to sweep across the entire Divine Realm. Mr. Jinya, you're too polite. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you. I still have some things to take care of, so I'll go first. Knight Sorrow said to Jinya and walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda because he noticed that Yun Tianyi and Zhuang he had already walked out of High Bay City. After exiting the Clear Sky Pagoda, he went up to them. Haha, Brother Yi. People always say that a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. This sentence is simply a perfect fulfillment for you. It hasn't been long since we last met, and not only can you rely on your own strength to kill so many Divine Lord-level dark creatures, you can even fight against the Divine King. This really shocked everyone. Thought you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.